Reading from Sri Caitanya Caritamrta, Chapter 8, Text 72. Translation. A man becomes purified simply by hearing the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose lotus feet create the holy places of pilgrimage. Therefore, what remains to be attained by those who have become his servants? Purport. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam and is an admission by the great sage Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni, a caste Brahmin and a great yogi, used to hate Maharaj Ambarish. When he decided to chastise Maharaj Ambarish through his yogic powers, he was chased by the Sudarshan Chakra of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When things were settled, he said, when the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is heard by any person, and that person is immediately sanctified. The Supreme Lord is the master of the devotees, and the devotees, under his shelter, naturally come to his own opulences. Text 73. By serving you constantly, one is freed from all material desires and is completely pacified. When shall I engage as your permanent eternal servant and always feel joyful to have such a perfect master? Purport. This is a statement made by the great saintly devotee Yamunacharya in his Stotra Ratna 43. Text 74. Hearing this from Rāmānanda Rāya, the Lord again requested him to go a step further. In reply, Rāmānanda Rāya said, loving service to Krishna rendered in fraternity is the highest perfection. Purport. As long as loving service is rendered to the Lord in the master-servant relationship, there is some fear, for the servant is always afraid of the master, despite the intimacy of self-interest. In this stage, the servant is always afraid of the master and respectful of him. When the devotee is further advanced, he has nothing to fear. He considers the Lord and himself on an equal level. At such a time, a devotee is fully convinced that Lord Krishna is a friend and cannot be at all dissatisfied if the devotee lives with him on an equal level. This understanding is called Vishrambha, that is devoid of a respectful attitude. When this attitude is chosen, it becomes Sakhya Prem, or love of Godhead and friendship. On this stage, there is developed consciousness of equality between the Lord and the devotee.
Text 75. Neither those engaged in self-realization of appreciating the Brahman effulgence of the Lord, nor those engaged in devotional service while accepting the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Master, nor those under the clutches of Maya, thinking the Lord as an ordinary person, can understand that certain exalted personalities, after accumulating volumes of pious activities, are now playing with the Lord in friendship as cowherd boys. Purport. This is a statement made by Shukdev Goswami, Bhagavatam 10, 12, 11, who appreciated the good fortune of the cowherd boys who played with Krishna and ate with them on the banks of Yamuna. Text 76, translation. The Lord said, this statement is very good, but please proceed even further. Purport. Rāmānanda Rāya then replied, loving service to the Lord in the parental relationship is the highest perfectional stage. The stage of loving service to the Lord in parental affection is an advanced stage of love in fraternity. In the fraternal relationship, there is a sense of equality. But when that sense of equality is advanced in affection, one attains the platform of parental love. In this connection, the following verse is cited from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:8-46, wherein Maharaj Parikshit voices his appreciation of Nanda Maharaj's and Mother Yashoda's intense love for Krishna. Text 77 translation. Rāmānanda Rāya continued, O Brahmana, what pious activities did Nanda Maharaj perform by which he received that supreme personality of Godhead and as his son Krishna? And what pious activities did Mother Yashoda perform that made the absolute supreme personality of Godhead Krishna call her mother and suck her breasts? Translation. The favor Mother Yashoda obtained from Sri Krishna, the bestower of liberation, was never obtained even by Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva or even by Goddess of Fortune, who always remains on the chest of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu. This is a statement from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:9-20. Krishna agreed to be bound by Mother Yashoda after she had given up trying to bind Krishna with ropes. This is another appreciation made by Shukdev Goswami in his narration of the pastimes of Krishna before Parikshit Maharaj. Text 79, translation. The Lord said, your statements are certainly getting better and better, one after the other. But surpassing all of them is another transcendental melody, and you can speak of that as the most sublime. Perfect. Rāmānanda Rāya then replied, conjugal attachment for Krishna is the topmost position in love of Godhead. In general, love of Godhead is devoid of intimacy of ownership. In the case of love in servitude, there is a want of confidence. There is a want of increased affection in fraternal relationship. And even when this affection increases in the paternal relationship, there is nonetheless a want of complete freedom. However, when one becomes a conjugal lover of Krishna, everything lacking in the other relationships is completely manifest. Love of Godhead lacks nothing in the conjugal stage. The summary of this verse is that parental love of Godhead is certainly higher than fraternal love, and that conjugal love is higher yet. It was when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu requested Rāmānanda Rāya to go further that he came to the point of conjugal relationship, which is the highest perfection stage of transcendental love. Text 80, translation. When Lord Sri Krishna was dancing with the gopis in the Ras Lila, the gopis were embraced around the neck by the Lord's arms. This transcendental favor was never bestowed upon the goddess of fortune or the other consorts in the spiritual world. Nor was such a thing ever imagined by the most beautiful girls in the heavenly planets, girls whose bodily luster and aroma resemble the beauty and fragrance of lotus flowers. And what to speak of worldly women who may be very, very beautiful according to material estimation. But the verse Bhagavatam 10:47-16 was spoken by Uddhava when he visited Sri Vrindavan to deliver a message from Krishna to the gopis. Uddhava remained in Vrindavan to observe the activities of the gopis there. When he saw the ecstatic love for Krishna in separation manifested by the gopis, he appreciated their supreme love and therefore expressed his feelings in this verse. He admitted that the fortune of the gopis could not be compared even to the fortune of goddess of fortune, to say nothing of the beautiful girls in the heavenly planets. Text 81, translation. Suddenly, due to their feelings of separation, Lord Krishna appeared among the gopis, dressed in yellow garments and wearing a flower garland. His lotus face was smiling, and he was directly attracting the mind of Cupid. Perfect. This verse is from Bhagavatam 10:32. When the Rasa dance was going on, Krishna suddenly disappeared, and the gopis became so overwhelmed due to his separation and their intense love for him that Krishna was obliged to appear again. Text 82.
82. 82. Oh, thank you. Krishna Praptira Upaya Bahuvidhaya Krishna Prapti Tara Tamaya Bahuda Acharya. There are various means and processes by which one may attain the favor of Lord Krishna. All those transcendental processes will be studied from the viewpoint of comparative importance. किंतु यान रसा से सर्वोत्तमा ततस्थाना विचारिले आचे तम. It is true that whatever relationship a particular devotee has with the Lord is the best for him. Still, when we study all the different methods from the neutral position, we can understand that there are higher and lower degrees of love. In this regard, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that this verse does not advocate the whimsical invention of some methods of love of Godhead. Some inventions cannot be accepted as topmost. Indeed, such concoctions are not recommended in these verses. Srila Rupa Goswami has said in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.101, Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidhim Vina Aikantiki Hare Bhaktir Utpatayaiva Kalpate. He clearly mentions in this verse that one must refer to the Vedic literatures and other supplementary literatures and follow the conclusions of the Vedas. As invented devotional attitude simply recreates disturbances in the transcendental realm. If a person overly addicted to family life takes to Srimad Bhagavatam or Krishna consciousness to earn a livelihood, his activity is certainly offensive. One should not become a caste guru and sell mantras for the benefit of mundane customers, nor should one make disciples for a livelihood. All these activities are offensive. One should not make a livelihood by forming a professional band to carry out congregational chanting, nor should one perform devotional service when one is attached to mundane society, friendship, and love. Nor should one be dependent on so-called social etiquettes. All of it is mental speculation. None of these things can be compared to unalloyed devotional service. No one can compare unalloyed devotional service, Krishna consciousness, to mundane activities. There are many unauthorized parties pretending to belong to Sri Caitanya cult and some are known as Aula, Baula, Kartha Bhaja, Mera, Dharavesha, Sani, Sahajiya, Sakhi Beki, Smartha, Jata Gosani, Atibadi, Chudadhari, and Gauranga Nagari. Moreover, there are those who take the caste Goswamis' opinions of such parties as bona fide, comparing these opinions to those of the six Goswamis, headed by Sri Rupa and Sri Sanatana. This is simply another cheating process. There are also non-devotees who compose unauthorized songs, who establish different temples for money, who worship the deity as priest for salaries, who accept caste Brahmanism as all in all, and who do not know the value of a pure Vaishnava. Actually, the caste Brahmanas of the Smartha community are opposed to the principles of Satvata Pancharatra. Furthermore, there are many Mayavadis and those who overly addicted to material sense enjoyment. None of these can be compared to a person who is purely engaged in preaching Krishna consciousness. Every Krishna conscious person is constantly endeavoring to utilize different transcendental devices in the service of the Lord. Such a devotee renounces all material enjoyment and completely dedicates himself to the service of his spiritual master and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu. He may be a perfect celibate, a restrained householder, a regulated vanaprastha, or a tridandi sannyasi in the renounced order. It doesn't matter. The pseudo-transcendentalists and the pure devotees cannot be compared, nor can one argue that a person can invent his own way of worship. The purport in presenting this verse necessitates explaining the comparative positions of the transcendental mellows known as Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. All these rasas or mellows are situated on the transcendental platform. Pure devotees shall take shelter of one of them and thus progress in spiritual life. Actually, one can take shelter of such spiritual mellows only when one is completely uncontaminated by material attachment. When one is completely free from material attachment, the feelings of the transcendental mellows are awakened in the heart of the devotee. That is Swarupa Siddhi, the perfection of one's eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord. Swarupa Siddhi, the eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord, may be situated in any one of the transcendental mellows. Each and every one of them is as perfect as the others. But by comparative study, an unbiased person can realize that the mellow of servitorship is better than the mellow of neutrality, that the mellow of fraternity is better than the mellow of servitorship, that the paternal mellow is better than that of a fraternity, and that above all other mellows is the mellow of conjugal love. However, these are all spiritually situated on the same platform because all of these relationships of perfection and love are based on a central point, Krishna. These mellows cannot be compared to the feelings one derives from demigod worship. Krishna is one, but the demigods are different. They are material. Love for Krishna cannot be compared to material love for different demigods. Because Mayavadis are on the platform, on the material platform, they recommend the worship of Shiva or Durga and say that worship of Kali and Krishna are the same. However, on the spiritual platform, there is no demigod worship. The only worshipable object is Krishna. Therefore, although there is no difference between a devotee in Shantarasa or Dasyarasa, Vatsalyarasa or Madhuryarasa, one can still make a comparative study of the intensity of love in these different transcendental positions. For example, it may be said that Dasyarasa is better than Shantarasa, yet transcendental love of God is there in both of them. Similarly, we can judge that love of Godhead in fraternity is better than the love of Godhead in neutrality and servitorship. Similarly, love of Godhead in parental affection is better than love in fraternity. And as stated before, love of God in the conjugal rasa is superior to that in the parental rasa. The analysis of the different types of love of Godhead has been made by expert acharyas who know all about devotional service on the transcendental platform. Unfortunately, inexperienced and unauthorized persons in the mundane world, not understanding the transcendental position of pure love, try to find some material fault in the transcendental process. This is simply impudence on the part of spiritually inexperienced people. Such fault finding is symptomatic of unfortunate mundane wranglers. Text number 84. यतोत्तरम् असोस्वादा विशेषोल्लासमायतपि रतिर्वासनया स्वाद्वी भासते कापि कस्यचित्. Increasing love is experienced in various states, one above another. But that love, which has the highest stage in the gradual succession of desires, manifests itself in the form of conjugal love. Purport. This verse is from Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 2.5.38, and it also appears in Adi Lila, chapter 4, verse 45. Text number 85. Purva Purva Rasera Guna Pare Parehaya Duitina Ganane Pancha Paryanta Bhadayam. There is a gradual order of improvement in transcendental mellows from the initial ones to the later ones. In each subsequent mellow, the qualities of the previous mellows are manifested, counting from 2, then 3, and up to the point of 5 complete qualities. Text 86. Gunadhikye swadadhikya bade pratirase shantadasya sakya vatsalyera gunamadhurete vaise. As the qualities increase, so the taste also increases in each and every mellow. Therefore, the qualities found in the Shantarasa, Dasarasa, Sakyarasa, and Vatsalyarasa are all manifested in conjugal love, which is called Madhurya Rasa. आकाशादिरागुणायेन परापरा भूते द्वितीन क्रमे वादे पंचा पृथ्वीते. The qualities in the material elements, sky, fire, air, fire, water, and earth increase one after another by gradual process of 1, 2, and 3. And at the last stage, in the element earth, all 5 qualities are completely visible. परिपूर्ण कृष्ण प्राप्ति हे प्रेमा हईते हे प्रेमा रवशे कृष्णा कहे भागवते. Complete attainment of the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna is made possible by love of Godhead, specifically Madhurya Rasa or conjugal love. Lord Krishna is indeed captivated by the standard of love. This is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam. To explain the topmost quality of conjugal love, Srila Krishnadasa Kaviraja Goswami gives the example of the material elements sky, air, fire, water, and earth. In the sky, which means space, there is the quality of sound. Similarly, in the air, there is the qualities of sound and touch. In fire, there are 3 qualities sound, touch, and form. In water, there are 4 qualities sound, touch, form, and taste. Finally, in earth, there are 5 qualities sound, touch, form, taste, and also smell. Now, one can see that the quality of the sky is in all, namely in air, fire, water, and earth. In earth, we can find all the qualities of the material nature. The same can be applied to the rasa known as Madhurya Rasa or conjugal love. In conjugal love, there are the qualities of neutrality, servitorship, fraternity, and parental affection, as well as those of conjugal love itself. The conclusion is that through conjugal love, the Lord is completely satisfied. Conjugal love, Madhurya Rasa, is also known as Shringara Rasa. It is the conclusion of the Srimad Bhagavatam that in the complete combination of love and service to the Lord, namely in conjugal love, the Supreme Lord fully agrees to be under the control of the devotee. The highest form of conjugal love is represented by Srimati Radharani. Therefore, in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, we can see that Krishna is always subjugated by Srimati Radharani's influence. Text number 89. मयि भक्तिर्हि भूताना अमृतत्वाय कल्पते दिष्ट्या यद् आसीन्मत्स्नेहो भवतीनां मदापनः. The Lord Sri Krishna told the gopis, the meaning of attaining my favor is loving service unto me, and fortunately you are all thus engaged. Those living beings who render service unto me are eligible. Those living beings who render service unto me are eligible to be transferred to the spiritual world and attain eternal life with the knowledge and bliss. 8. The fulfillment of human life is summarized in this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.82.44. There are 2 important words in this verse, bhakti, devotional service, and amrutatva, eternal life. The aim of human life is to attain the natural position of eternal life. This eternal life can be achieved only by devotional service. Text number 80. Text number 90. कृष्णेर प्रतिज्ञदृढा सर्वकाले आचे ये आइचे भजे कृष्णा तारे भाजे ताइचे. Lord Krishna has made a firm promise for all the time. If one renders service unto him, Krishna correspondingly gives him an equal amount of success in devotional service to the Lord. Lord Krishna has made a firm promise for all time. If one renders service unto him, Krishna correspondingly gives him an equal amount of success in devotional service to the Lord. Hari Bol. It is a completely mistaken idea that one can worship Krishna in any form or in any way and still attain the ultimate result of receiving the favor of the Lord. This is a decision made by gross materialists. Generally, such men say that you can manufacture your own way of worshipping the Supreme Lord and that any type of worship is sufficient to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Certainly, there are different means for attaining different results in fruitive activity, speculative knowledge, mystic yoga, and austerity. Crude men therefore say that one who adopts any of these methods achieves the Supreme Personality of Godhead's favor. They claim that it doesn't matter what kind of method one adopts. A general example is given. If one wishes to arrive to a certain place, there are many roads leading there, and one can go to that place by any of those roads. Similarly, these gross materialists say there are different ways to attain the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They claim that one can conceive the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Goddess Durga, Goddess Kali, Lord Shiva, demigod Ganesha, Lord Ramachandra, Krishna, the impersonal Brahman, or whatever. And one can chant the Lord's name in any way and in any form. Such materialists claim that since ultimately all the names of the Lord or forms are one, the result is the same. They also give the example that a man who has a different names will answer if called by any one of them. Therefore, they claim there is no need to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. If one chants the name of Kali, Durga, Shiva, Ganesha, or anyone else, the result will be the same. Such claims made by mental speculators are no doubt very pleasing to mental speculators. But those who are actually in knowledge do not admit such conclusions, which are against the authority of the Shastras. A bona fide Acharya will certainly not accept such a conclusion. As Krishna clearly states in the Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, verse 25, Yanti deva vrata devan tritrun yanti pitruvrataha bhutani yanti bhutejya yanti madhyajino apima. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me. Hari Hari. Only the devotees of the Lord can be admitted to his kingdom, not the demigod worshippers, karmis, yogis, or anyone else. A person who desires elevation to the heavenly planets worships various demigods, and material nature may be pleased to offer such devotees their desired positions. The material nature gives a person his own nature by which he increases affection for different types of demigods. However, the Bhagavad Gita 7th chapter 20th verse says that the demigod worship is meant for men who have lost all their intelligence. कामैस्तैस्तेर्हृतज्ञाना प्रपद्यन्ते अन्यदेवताः तं तं नियममास्थाय प्रकृत्या नियता स्वया. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. Although one may be elevated to the heavenly planets, the results of such a benediction are limited. Antavattu phalam tesham tadbhavati alpamedhasam devan devayajo yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my spiritual planet. This is from Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, 23rd verse. Being elevated to the heavenly planets or other material planets does not mean attaining an eternal life of knowledge and bliss. At the end of the material world, all attainments of material elevation will also end. Again, according to Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, 55th verse, only those who engage in his loving devotional service will be admitted to the spiritual world and return to Godhead, not others. भक्त्या मामभिजानाति यावन्यश्चाश्मतत्वतः ततो मां तत्त्वतो ज्ञात्वा विशते तदनन्तरम्. One can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Impersonalists cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, it is not possible for them to enter into the spiritual kingdom of God and return home back to Godhead. Actually, one attains different results by different means. It is not that all achievements are one and the same. Those who are interested in the four principles, dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, cannot be compared to those interested in the unalloyed devotional service of the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.2 therefore says, धर्मः प्रोचितः कैतवो अत्र परमो निर्मत्सराणां सतां वेद्यं वास्तवमत्र वस्तु शिवदं तापत्रयोन्मूलनम् श्रीमद्भागवते महामुने कृत किं वा प्ररेरीश्वरा सद्यो हृदे अवरुध्यते अत्र कृतभिः शुश्रूषिस्तत्क्षणात्. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth which is understandable by those devotees who are pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such a truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Sri Vyasadeva, is sufficient in itself for God realization. As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, he becomes attached to the Supreme Lord. Those who aspire after liberation attempt to merge into the impersonal Brahman. To this end, they execute ritualistic religious ceremonies, but Srimad Bhagavatam considers this a cheating process. Indeed, such people can never dream of returning home back to Godhead. There is a gulf of difference between the goal of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha and the goal of devotional service. The goddess Durga is a superintending deity of this material world, which is made of material elements. The demigods are simply different directors engaged in operating the departments of material activities, and they are under the influence of the same material energy. Krishna's internal potencies, however, have nothing to do with the creation of this cosmic material world. The spiritual world and all spiritual activities are under the direction of the internal spiritual energy, and such activities are performed by Yoga Maya, the spiritual energy. Yoga Maya is the spiritual and internal energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who are interested in being promoted to the spiritual world and engaging in the service of the Lord attain spiritual perfection under the control of Yoga Maya. Those who are interested in material promotion engage in ritualistic religious ceremonies and economic development to develop sense gratification. They ultimately attempt to merge into the impersonal existence of the Lord. Such people generally become impersonalists. They are interested in worshipping Lord Shiva or Goddess Durga, but their return is 100% materialistic. Following the examples of the gopis, the devotees sometimes worship the goddess Caitanya, but they understand that Katyayini is an incarnation of Yogamaya. The gopis worship Katyayini, Yogamaya, to attain Krishna as their husband. On the other hand, it is stated in the Saptasati scriptures that a Kshatriya king named Suratha and a rich Vaishya named Samadhi worshipped material nature in the form of goddess Durga to attain material perfection. If one tries to mingle the worship of Yogamaya with that of Mahamaya, considering them one and the same, he does not really show very high intelligence. The idea that everything is one kind of foolishness indulged in by those with less brain substance. Fools and rascals say that the worship of Yogamaya and the worship of Mahamaya are the same. This conclusion is simply the result of mental speculation and it has no practical effect. In the material world, sometimes one gives an exalted title to an utterly worthless thing. In Bengal, this is known as giving a blind child a name like Padmalochana, which means lotus eye. One may foolishly call a blind child Padmalochana, but such an appellation does not bear any meaning. In the spiritual world, the absolute Lord is always identical with his name, form, fame, qualities, and pastimes. Such identity is impossible in the material world, where the name of a person is different from the person himself. The Supreme Lord has many holy names like Paramatma, Brahman, and the Creator, but one who worships the Lord as Creator cannot understand the relation between a devotee and the Lord in the five types of transcendental mellows, nor can he understand the conception of Krishna. One cannot understand the six transcendental opulences of the Lord simply by understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead as impersonal Brahman. Impersonal realization of the absolute truth is certainly transcendental, but this does not mean that one who has attained this realization can understand the Satchidananda form of the Lord. Similarly, Paramatma realization of the plenary expansion of the absolute truth within everyone's heart is also an incomplete understanding of the absolute truth. Even a devotee of the personality of Godhead Narayana cannot actually understand the transcendental attractive features of Krishna. Indeed, a devotee of Krishna who is attached to the sublime attractive features of the Lord does not consider Narayana very important. When the gopis sometimes saw Krishna in the form of a Narayana, they were not very much attracted to him. The gopis never addressed Krishna as Rukmini Ramana. Krishna's devotees in Vrindavan address him as Radha Ramana, Nanda Nandana, and Yashoda Nandana, but not as Vasudeva Nandana or Devaki Nandana. Although according to the material conception, Narayana, Rukmini Ramana, and Krishna are one and the same. In the spiritual world, one cannot use the name Rukmini Ramana or Narayana in place of the name Krishna. If one does so out of poor fund of knowledge, his mellow with the Lord becomes spiritually faulty and is called Rasabhasa, an overlapping of transcendental mellows. The advanced devotee who has actually realized the transcendental features of the Lord will not commit the mistake of creating Rasabhasa situation by using one name for another. Because of the influence of Kali Yuga, there is much rasabhasa in the name of extravagance and liberal mindedness. Such fanaticism is not very much appreciated by pure devotees. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam tathaiva bhajamyaham mama vartman vartante manushya partha sarvashaha. According to Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita 4.11, as all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. ये प्रेमरा अनुरूपा ना पारे भजिते अत एव ऋणी हया कहे भागवते. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 32nd chapters, 22nd verse, it is said that Lord Krishna cannot proportionately reciprocate devotional service in the Madhurya Rasa. Therefore, he always remains a debtor in such devotees. न परायेऽहं निर्वज्य संयुजां स्वसाधुं कृत्यं विबुधायुषापि वाह या माधु भजन् दुर्जरगेह शृङ्खलाः संवृष्ट्या तद्वः प्रतियातु साधुना. When the gopis were overwhelmed with dissatisfaction due to Lord Krishna's absence from the Rasa Leela, Krishna returned to them and told them, my dear gopis, our meeting is certainly free of all material contamination. I must admit that in many lives it would be impossible for me to repay my debt to you because you have cut off the bondage of family life just to search for me. Consequently, I am unable to repay you. Therefore, please be satisfied with your honest activities in this regard. Text 94. यद्यापि कृष्ण सौंदर्या माधुर्येरा दुर्या व्रजदेवीरा संगे तांड्रबादे madhurya. Although Krishna's unparalleled beauty is the topmost sweetness of love of God, his sweetness increases unlimitedly when he is in the company of the gopis. Consequently, Krishna's exchange of love with the gopis is the topmost perfection of love of God. Purport. Krishna and his devotees become perfectly intimate in conjugal love of Godhead. In other mellows, the Lord and the devotees do not enjoy transcendental bliss as perfectly. The next verses, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.33.6, will illustrate this point. तत्रातिषु शुभेताभिर्भगवान् देवकी सुतः मध्ये मनीनां हैमानां महामारकटो यथा. Although the son of Devaki, the supreme personality of Godhead, is the reservoir of all kinds of beauty, when he is among the gopis, he nonetheless becomes more beautiful, for he resembles a Markata jewel surrounded by gold and other jewels. Text number 96. प्रभु कहे ये साध्यावधि सुनिश्चया कृपाकारी कहा यदि आगे किछु हया. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, this is certainly the limit of perfection, but please be merciful to me and speak more if there is more. 97. Rāya कहे इहार आगे पूछे हे न जाने एत दीना नाही जानी आचार्य भुवने. Rāya Rāmānanda Rai replied, until this day I did not know anyone within this material world who could inquire beyond this perfectional stage of devotional service. Hari Hari. 98. Inhare madhye rahara prema sadhya shiromani yanhara mahima sarva shastreti vakhani. Among the loving affairs of the gopis, Rāmānanda Rai continued, Srimati Radharani's love for Krishna is the topmost. Indeed, the glories of Srimati Radharani are highly esteemed in all revealed scriptures. Hari Hari. यथा राधा प्रिया विष्णोस्तस्याः कुंडम प्रियम तथा सर्वगोपीषु सैवाका विष्णोरत्यंत वल्लभा. Just as Srimati Radharani is the most dear to Sri Krishna, her bathing place Radha Kunda is also dear to him. Among all the gopis, Srimati Radharani is supermost and very dear to Lord Sri Krishna. Purport. This verse is from the Padma Purana and is included in the Laghu Bhagavatamrita 2.1.45 by Srila Rupa Goswami. It also appears in the Adi Lila chapter 4 verse 215 and again in the Madhya Lila chapter 18 verse 8. Text 100. Anayaradhito nunam Bhagavan Haririshvaraha Yanno Vihaya Govindaha Pritoyam Anayadrataha. When the gopis began to talk among themselves, they said, "Dear friends, the gopi who has been taken away by Krishna to a secluded place must have worshipped the Lord more than anyone else." The name Radha is derived from this verse, Bhagavatam 10.30.28. From the words Anyaradhita, meaning by her the Lord is worshipped. Sometimes the critics of Srimad Bhagavatam find it difficult to find Radharani's holy name in that book, but the secret is disclosed here in the word Aradhita, from which the name Radha has come. Of course, the name of the Radharani is directly mentioned in the other Puranas. The gopis' worship of Krishna is topmost, and therefore her name Radha and the topmost worshipper. प्रभु कहे आगे कहा सुनीते पाए सुखे अपूर्वामृता नाड़ी वहे तोमारा मुखे. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Please speak on. I am very happy to hear you because a river of unprecedented nectar is flowing from your mouth. चूरीकारी राधा के नील गोपी गणेर धरे अन्यापेक्ष हैला प्रेमरा गाधता naspure." During the Rasa dance, Sri Krishna did not exchange loving affairs with Srimati Radharani due to the presence of other gopis. Because of the dependence of the others, the intensity of love between Radha and Krishna was not manifest. Therefore, he stole her away. Purport. Out of the fear of the gopis, other gopis, Lord Shri Krishna took Srimati Radharani to a secluded place. In this regard, the verse Kamsari Rapi, verse 106 in this chapter, will be quoted from the Gita Govinda of Jayadeva Goswami. राधा लागी गोपी रे यदि साक्षात करे त्यागा ताबे जानी राधाया कृष्णे रागाधा अनुरागा. If Lord Sri Krishna rejected the company of other gopis for Srimati Radharani, we can understand that the Lord Sri Krishna has intense affection for her. 104. Rāya kahe tabe suna premare mahima trijagate radha premira nakhika upama. Rāmānanda Rāya continued, "Please therefore hear from me about the glories of Srimati Radharani's loving affairs. They are beyond compare within these three worlds. Gopi Ganera Rasa Nritya Mandali Chadiya Radha Chahi Vane Fire Vilape Karya." Finding herself treated equally with all the other gopis, Srimati Radharani displayed her tricky behavior and left the circle of the Rasa dance. Missing Srimati Radharani's presence, Krishna became very unhappy and began to lament and wander throughout the forest to search her out. Kamsari api samsara vasana baddha shinkhalam radham adhaya hridaye tyaja tatyaja vraja sundari. Lord Krishna, the enemy of Kamsa, took Srimati Radharani within his heart, for he desired to dance with her. Thus he left the arena of the dance, Rasa dance, in the company of all other beautiful damsels of Vraja. इतस्ततस्ताम् अनुश्रुत्य राधिकाम् अनङ्गबाणवर्ण खिन्नमानसाः कृतामुतापः सा कलिन्दनन्दिनी ततान्तकुञ्जे विशेषाढमाधवाः. Being afflicted by the arrows of Cupid and unhappily regretting his mistreating Srimati Radharani, Madhava, Lord Sri Krishna, began to search for her along the banks of Yamuna river. When he failed to find her, he entered the bushes of Vrindavan and began to lament. These two verses are from Gita Govinda, written by Jayadeva Goswami. 108. ए दुई श्लोकेर अर्थ विचारिले जानी विचारिते उठे येन अमृते रखानी. Simply by considering these two verses, one can understand what nectar there is in such dealings. It is exactly like freeing a mine of nectar. Shato koti gopi sange rasa vilasa tara madhye ekamurtye rahe radha pasha. Although Krishna was in the midst of hundreds and thousands of gopis during the rasa dance, he still kept himself in one of his transcendental forms by the side of Srimati Radharani. साधारण प्रेम देखी सर्वत्र समता राधारा कुटिला प्रेमे हाइला वामता. Lord Krishna is equal to everyone in his general dealings, but due to conflicting ecstatic love of Srimati Radharani's, there were opposing elements. I will read this and one last one, okay? अहेरिव गति प्रेम्णा स्वाभावा कुटिला भवेत् अतो हेतोरहेतुश्च यूनोर्माना उदञ्चति. The progress of loving affairs between a young boy and a young girl is like the movement of a snake. On account of this, two types of anger arises between young boy and girl. Anger with cause and anger without cause. Very well. During the rasa dance, one form of Krishna was between every two gopis. But by the side of Srimati Radharani, there was only one Krishna. Although this was the case, Srimati Radharani still manifested disagreement with Krishna. This verse is from Ujjvala Nilamani, Sringara Bheda Kathana 102, written by Srila Rupa Goswami. You want to read the verse? So I'll read it. You'll read the verse? Or?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
I'll continue with how you started.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Text 112. क्रोध करी रास छाड़ी गेलमान करी तांड्रे ना देखिया व्याकुल हैला श्री हरि. Translation. When Radharani left the Ras dance out of anger and resentment, Lord Shri Krishna became very anxious because he could not see. Text 113. Samyak sara vasana Krishnir rasa lila rasa lila vasanate radhika shrinkala. Translation. Lord Krishna's desire in the Ras Leela circle is perfectly complete, but Srimati Radharani is the binding link in that desire. Text 114. Tanha Vinu Rasa Leela Nahi Bhaya Chite Mandali Chadiya Gela Radha Anvesite. Translation. The Ras dance does not shine in the heart of Krishna without Srimati Radharani. Therefore, he also gave up the circle of the Ras dance and went out to search for her. Text 115. Itastata Brahmi Kahan Radha Napana Vishada Karena Kama Bani Khinna Hana. When Krishna went out to search for Srimati Radharani, he wandered here and there. Not finding her, he became afflicted by the arrow of Cupid and began to lament. Shatakoti gopi te nahe kama nirvapana taha te anumani Shri Radhikara guna. Since Krishna's lusty desires were not satisfied, even in the midst of hundreds of thousands of gopis, and he was thus searching after Srimati Radharani, we can easily imagine how transcendently qualified she is. Prabhu kahe, ye lagi ailama tomasthane, se sava tattva vastu haila mora jnane. After hearing this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to Rāmānanda Rāya, that for which I have come to your residence has now become an object of truth in my knowledge. Ebe se jan nilum sadhya sadhana nirnaya age ar ache kichu sunite manahaya. Now I have come to understand the sublime goal of life and the process of achieving it. Nevertheless, I think that there is something more ahead, and my mind is desiring to have it. Text 119. Krishnera Swarupa Kaha Radhara Swarupa Rasa Kona Tattva Prema Kona Tattva Rupa. Translation. Kindly explain the transcendental features of Krishna and Srimati Radharani, and also explain the truth of transcendental mellows and the transcendental form of love of Godhead. Text 120. कृपा करी ई तत्व कहाँ ता आमारे तोमा वीणा के इह निरूपति निरूपिते नरे. Translation. Kindly explain all the truths to me, but for yourself, no one can ascertain them. Rāya kahe iha ami kichui na jani tumi e kahao si kahi ami vani. Sri Rāmānanda Rāya replied, I do not know anything about this. I simply vibrate the sound you make me speak. Tomara shikshaya pariyena sukha partha sakshat ishvara tumi ye bhuje tomara nata. I simply repeat like a parrot whatever instructions you have given me. You are the supreme personality of Godhead Himself. You can understand, who can understand your dramatic performances? Text 123. Hridaya preranikara jivaya kahau vani ki kahiye bhala manda kichui na jani. You inspire me within the heart and make me speak with the tongue. I do not know whether I am speaking well or badly. Text 124. प्रभु कहे मायावादी आमित सन्यासी भक्ति तत्व नहीं जानी मायावादे भाषी. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I am a Mayavadi in the renounced order of life, and I do not even know what transcendental loving service to the Lord is. I simply float in the ocean of Mayavad philosophy. सार्वभौम संगे मोरा मन निर्मल हैला Krishna Bhakti Tattva Kaha Tanhari Puchila. Due to the association of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, my mind became enlightened. Therefore, I asked him about the truths of transcendental loving service to Krishna. Text 126. Teno kahe ami nahi jani Krishna katha sabi Rāmānanda jani teno nahi itha. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya told me, I do not actually know about the topics of Lord Krishna. They are all known to Rāmānanda Rāya, but he is not present here. Tomara thani ailana, tomara mahima suniya, tumi mora stuti kara sannyasi janiya. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, after hearing about your glories, I have come to your place, but you are offering me words of praise out of respect for a sannyasi, one in a renounced order of life. Purport. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that a mundane person, being enriched by mundane opulences, must always know that transcendental opulences of the advanced devotees are far more important than materialistic opulences of a person like himself. A materialistic person with material opulences should not be very proud or puffed up before a transcendental devotee. If one approaches a transcendental devotee on the strength of one's material heritage, opulence, education, and beauty, and does not offer respect to advanced devotee of the Lord, the Vaishnava devotee may offer formal respects to such a materially puffed up person, but he may not deliver transcendental knowledge unto him. Indeed, the devotee sees him as a non-Brahmana or Shudra. Such puffed up person cannot understand the science of Krishna. A proud person is deceived in the transcendental life and despite having attained a human form will again glide into hellish conditions. By his personal example, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains how one should be submissive and humble before a Vaishnava, even though one may be situated on a higher platform. Such is the teaching of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Acharya of the world, the supreme spiritual master and teacher. Text 128. Kiba vipra kiba nyasi shudra ke ne naya yei Krishna tattva veta sei guru haya. Whether one is a Brahmana, a sannyasi, or a Shudra, regardless of what he is, he can become a spiritual master if he knows the science of Krishna. Purport. This verse is very important to the Krishna consciousness movement. In his Amrita Pravaha Bhasya, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur explains that one should not think that because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born in a Brahmana and was situated in the topmost spiritual order as a sannyasi, it was improper for him to receive instructions from Srila Rāmānanda Rāya, who belonged to the Shudra caste. To clarify this matter, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informed Rāmānanda Rāya that knowledge of Krishna consciousness is more important than caste. In the system of Varnashram Dharma, there are various duties for the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. Actually, the Brahmana is supposed to be the spiritual master for all other Varnas or classes. But as far as Krishna consciousness is concerned, everyone is capable of becoming spiritual master because knowledge in Krishna consciousness is on the platform of spirit soul. To spread Krishna consciousness, one need only be cognizant of the science of the spirit soul. It does not matter whether one is Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Sannyasi, Grihastha, or whatever. If one simply understands this science, he can become a spiritual master. It is stated in the Hari Bhakti Vilasa that one should not accept initiation from a person who is not in the Brahminical order if there is a fit person in the Brahminical order present. This instruction is meant for those who are overly dependent on the mundane social order and is suitable for those who want to remain in mundane life. If one understands the truth of Krishna consciousness and seriously desires to attain the transcendental knowledge for the perfection of life, he can accept a spiritual master from any social status, provided the spiritual master is fully conversant with the science of Krishna. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur also states that although one is situated as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Vanprastha, Grihastha, or Sannyasi, if he is conversant in the science of Krishna, he can become a spiritual master as Vartma Pradarshak Guru, Diksha Guru, or Shiksha Guru. The spiritual master who first gives information about spiritual life is called the Vartma Pradarshak Guru. The spiritual master who initiates according to the regulations of the Shastra is called the Diksha Guru. And the spiritual master who gives instructions for elevation is called the Siksha Guru. Factually, the qualifications of a spiritual master depend on his knowledge of science of Krishna. It does not matter whether he is Brahmana, Kshatriya, Sannyasi, or Shudra. This injunction given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not at all against the injunctions of the Shastras. In Padma Purana, it is said, Na Shudra Bhagavat Bhaktas Te Api Bhagavatotmana Sarva Varnishu Te Sudra Yena Bhakta Janardane. One who is actually advanced in spiritual knowledge of Krishna is never a Shudra, even though he may have been born in a Shudra family. However, even if a Vipra or a Brahmana is very expert in the six Brahminical activities, that is, Patana, Pathana, Yajna, Yajna, Dana, and Pratigraha, and is also well versed in the Vedic hymns, he cannot become a spiritual master unless he is a Vaishnava. But if one is born in the family of Chandalas, yet he is well versed in Krishna consciousness, he can become a guru. These are Shastric injunctions, and strictly following these injunctions, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as a grihastha named Sri Vishwambhara, was initiated by a sannyasi guru named Ishwarapuri. Similarly, Sri Nityananda Prabhu was initiated by Madhavendra Puri, a sannyasi. According to others, however, he was initiated by Lakshmipati Tirtha. Advaitacharya, although a grihastha, was initiated by Madhavendra Puri and Sri Rasikananda. Although born in Brahmana family, was initiated by Sri Shyamananda Prabhu, who was not born in the caste Brahmana family. There are many instances in which a born Brahmana took initiation from a person who was not born in a Brahmana family. The Brahminical symptoms are explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, 11th chapter, 35 verse, wherein it is stated, Yasya lakshana proktam pumso varna biyanjitam yad anyatrapi drishyeta tattenaiva vinirdiset. If a person is born in a Shudra family but has all the qualities of a spiritual master, he should be accepted not only as Brahmana but as a qualified spiritual master also. This is also the instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur therefore introduced the sacred thread ceremony for all Vaishnavas according to rules and regulations. Sometimes a Vaishnava who is Bhajananandi does not take the Savitra Samskar, sacred thread initiation. But this does not mean that this system should be used for preaching work. There are two kinds of Vaishnavas, Bhajananandi and Goshthianandi. A Bhajananandi is not interested in preaching work, but a Goshti Anandi is interested in spreading Krishna consciousness to benefit the people and increase the number of Vaishnavas. A Vaishnav is understood to be above the position of a Brahmana. As a preacher, he should be recognized as a Brahmana. Otherwise, there may be a misunderstanding of his position as a Vaishnava. However, a Vaishnava Brahmana is not selected on the basis of his birth, but according to his qualities. Unfortunately, those who are unintelligent do not know the difference between a Brahmana and a Vaishnava. They are under impression that unless one is a Brahmana, he cannot be a spiritual master. For this reason only, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu makes the statement in this verse. Kiba vipra kiba nyasi shudra ke nirnaya ye Krishna tattva veta sei guru haya. If one becomes a guru, he is automatically a Brahmana. Sometimes a caste guru says that Ye Krishna Tattva Veda, say Guru Haya means that one who is not a Brahmana may become a Shiksha Guru or Vartama Pradaksha Guru, but not an initiator Guru. According to such caste gurus, birth and family ties are considered foremost. However, the hereditary consideration is not acceptable to Vaishnavas. The word guru is equally applicable to Vartama Pradarshak Guru, Shiksha Guru, and Diksha Guru. Unless we accept the principle enunciated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this Krishna consciousness movement cannot spread all over the world. According to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's intentions, Prithvite Ache Yata Nagaradi Grama Sarvatra Prachara Haive Mora Nama. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult must be preached all over the world. This does not mean that people who should take to his teachings and remain Shudras or Chandalas. As soon as one is trained as a pure Vaishnava, he must be accepted as a bona fide Brahmana. This is the essence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions in this verse. Text 129. Sannyasi baliye more na karitha vanchana Krishna radha tattvatahi Purana Karamana. Translation. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, please do not try to cheat me, thinking of me as a learned sannyasi. Please satisfy my mind by just describing the truth of Radha and Krishna. Texts 130 and 131. यद्यपि राय प्रेमी महाभागवते तान रामना कृष्णा माया नारे आच्छदिके तथापि प्रभुर इच्छा परम प्रबल जानीले हरायेरा मन हैल तलमला. Translation. Sri Rāmānanda Rai was a great devotee of the Lord and a lover of God. And although his mind could not be covered by Krishna's illusory energy, and although he could understand the mind of the Lord, which was very strong and intense, Ramananda's mind became a little agitated. Purport. The perfect devotee always acts according to the desires of Supreme Personality of Godhead. But a materialistic man is carried away by the waves of material energy. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said, Mayara Vashe Yacha Bhese Kacha Habudugu Bhai. Person under the grip of material energy is carried away by the waves of that illusionary energy. In other words, a person in the material world is servant of Maya. However, a person in the spiritual energy is servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although Ramananda Rai knew that nothing was known to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, nothing was unknown to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he nonetheless began to speak further on the subject because the Lord desired it. Text 132. Rāya kahi, Ami nata tumi sutradhara, ye mata nachao, tai che chahi na chibara. Sri Ramananda Raya said, I'm just a dancing puppet, and you pull the strings. Whichever way you make me dance, I will dance. Text 133. मोर जीव विना यंत्र तुम्ही वीणाधारी तुम्हारा मने ये उठे ताहाई उच्चारी. My dear Lord, my tongue is just like a stringed instrument and you are its player. Therefore, I simply vibrate whatever arises in your mind. Parama Ishvara Krishna Swayam Bhagavan Sarva Avatari Sarva Karana Pradhana. Rāmānanda Rai then began to speak on Krishna Tattva. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He said, He is personally the original Godhead, the source of all incarnation and the cause of all causes. Ananta Vaikuntha Ara Ananta Avatara Ananta Brahmanda Ihan Sabara Adhara. There are innumerable Vaikuntha planets as well as innumerable incarnations. In the material world also there are innumerable universes and Krishna is a supreme resting place for all of them. Text 136. Satchidananda Tanu Vrajendra Nandana Sarvaishvara Sarvashakti Sarvashapurna. Translation. The transcendental body of Sri Krishna is eternal and full of bliss and knowledge. He is the son of Nanda Maharaj. He is full of all opulences and potencies as well as all spiritual mellows. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is a supreme controller. He is eternal, blissful spiritual body. He has an eternal, blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, for he is the prime cause of all causes. Purport. This verse is from Brahma Samhita 5.1. Text 138. Vrindavane aprakrit navinamādana Kama Gayatri Kama Bije Yanra Upasana. In the realm of Vrindavan, Krishna is a spiritual, ever fresh Cupid. He is worshipped by the chanting of Kama Gayatri mantra with the spiritual seed klim. Purport. Vrindavan is described in the Brahma Samhita 5.56 in this way. Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo Druma Bhumi Shintamini Ganamayi Toyam Amritam Katha Ganam Natyam Gamanam Api Vamshi Priya Sakhi Chidanandam Jyoti Param Apitad Ashwadyam Apicha. स यत्र क्षीराब्धि श्रवति सुरयाभि व्यस्त चं सुमहानिमेषार्धाख्यो वा व्रजति न हि यत्रपि समय भजे श्वेताद्वीपं तम् अहम् इह गोलोकम् इति यं वेदन्तस्त सन्तक्षिति विरलचारः कटिपये. The spiritual realm of Vrindavan is always spiritual. The goddess of fortune and the gopis are always present there. They are Krishna's beloveds, and all of them are as spiritual as Krishna. In Vrindavan, Krishna is a supreme person and is the husband of all the gopis and the goddess of fortune. The trees in Vrindavan are wish fulfilling trees. The land is made of touchstone and the water is nectar. Words are musical vibrations, and all movements are dancing. The flute is Lord's constant companion. The planet Golok Vrindavan is self-luminous like the sun and is full of spiritual bliss. The perfection of life lies in tasting that spiritual existence. Therefore, everyone should cultivate its knowledge. In Vrindavan, spiritual cows are always supplying spiritual milk. Not a single moment is wasted there. In other words, there is no past, present, or future. Not a single particle of time is wasted. Within this material universe, the devotees worship that transcendental abode as Golok Vrindavan. Lord Brahma himself said, "Let me worship that spiritual land where Krishna is present." This transcendental Vrindavan is not appreciated by those who are not devotees of self-realized souls, because this Vrindavan Dham is all spiritual. The pastimes of the Lord are also spiritual. None are material. According to prayer by Sri Narottam Das Thakur in Prarthana 1, आर कबे निताई चांदेर करुणा करीबे संसार वासना मोरा कबे तुच्छ हबे. When will Lord Nityananda have mercy upon me so that I can realize the uselessness of material pleasure? विषय छाड़िया कबे शुद्ध हबे मना कबे हम हेराब श्री वृंदावन. When will my mind be cleansed of all material dirt so that I will be able to feel the presence of spiritual Vrindavan? Rupa Raghunatha Padehabe Akuti Kabe Hama Pujabo Se Yugala Piriti. When will I be attracted to the instructions of the Goswamis so that I will be able to understand what is Radha and Krishna and what is Vrindavan? These verses indicate that one first has to be purified of all material desires and all attraction for creative activity and speculative knowledge if one wishes to understand Vrindavan. In reference to the words aprakrita, navina madana, aprakrita means refers to that which is very opposite of material conception. The Mayavadis consider this to be zero or impersonal, but that is not the case. Everything in material world is dull, but in spiritual world, everything is alive. The desires for enjoyment is present both in Krishna and in his parts and parcels, the living entities. In spiritual world, such desires are also spiritual. One should not mistakenly consider such desires to be material. In the material world, if one is sexually inclined and enjoys sex life, he enjoys something temporary. His enjoyment vanishes after a few minutes. However, in spiritual world, the same enjoyment may be there, but it never vanishes. It is continuously enjoyed. In the spiritual world, such sex pleasure appears to the enjoyer to be more and more relishable with each new feature. In the material world, however, sex enjoyment becomes distasteful after a few minutes only, but it is never permanent. Because Krishna appears very much sexually inclined, he is called a new Cupid in the spiritual world. There is no material inebriety in such desire, however. Gayantam trayate yasmat gayatri tvam tata smrita. One who chants the Gayatri mantra is gradually delivered from the material clutches. In other words, that which delivers one from material entanglement is called Gayatri. An explanation of Gayatri mantra can be found in Madhya lila, chapter 21, text 125. Kam Gayatri mantra rupa, Haya Krishna rasa rupa, Sarthak Chabisha Akshara Tara Haya, Se Akshara Chandra Haya, Krishne Kari Udaya, Tri Jagat Kaila Kamamaya. The Kama Gayatri mantra is just like a Vedic hymn, but it is the supreme personality of Godhead Himself. There is no difference between the Kama Gayatri and Krishna. Both are composed of 24 and a half transcendental syllables. See Madhya 21.125 to 129 till 29. The mantra depicted in letters is also Krishna, and the mantra rises just like the moon. Due to this there is a perverted reflection of desire in human society and among all kinds of living entities. In the mantra Klim Kama Devaya Vidmahe Pushpabanaya Dhimahi Tanno Nangah Prachodayat. Krishna is called Kamadeva, Pushpabana, and Ananga. Kamadev is Madan Mohan, the deity who establishes our relationship with Krishna. Pushpaban, he who carries an arrow made of flowers, is Govinda, the personality of Godhead who accepts our devotion service. And Ananga is Gopijana Vallabha, who satisfies all the gopis and is ultimate goal of life. This Kam Gayatri, Klim Kama Devaya Viddamahe, Pushpabanaya Dhimahi, Tanno Ananga Prachodayat, simply does not belong to this material world. When one is advanced in spiritual understanding, he can worship this supreme personality of Godhead with his spiritually purified senses, and fulfill the desires of the Lord. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mameva jassi satyante pratijane priyosi me. Always think of me and become my devotee. Worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus, you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. From Bhagavad Gita 18.65. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated, Atha Venu Ninadasya Traimurti Maigati Spuranti Pravive Vashu Mukhabjani Swayambhuva Gayatrim Gayatastasmat Adigatya Sarojaha Samskrita Chari Garuna Dvijatam Agamattataha Traya Prabhudo Atha Vidhi Kyata tattva sagara tustava veda sarena stotrinanina keshavam. Then Gayatri, mother of all the Vedas, having been manifested by the divine sound of Sri Krishna's flute, entered the lotus mouth of Brahma, the self-born, through his 8 ear holes. Thus the lotus-born Brahma received the Gayatri mantra, which had sprung from the song of his Sri Krishna's flute. In this way, he attained twice-born status, having been initiated by the supreme primal preceptor, Godhead himself. Enlightened by the recollection of that Gayatri, which embodies the three Vedas, Brahma became acquainted with the expanse of the ocean of truth. Then he worshipped Sri Krishna, the essence of all Vedas, with a hymn. The vibration of Krishna's flute is the origin of the Vedic hymns. Lord Brahma, who is seated on lotus flower, heard the sound vibration of Krishna's flute and was thereby initiated by the Gayatri mantra. Text 139. Purusha Yoshit Kiba Sthavara Jangam Sarvas Chitak Karakshaka Sakshat Manmatha Madan. Translation. The very name Krishna means that he attracts even Cupid. He is therefore attractive to everyone, male and female, moving and inert living entities. Indeed, Krishna is known as the all attractive one. Purport. Just as there are many orbs in the material world called stars or planets, in the spiritual world, there are many spiritual planets called Vaikuntha Lokas. The spiritual universe, however, is situated far, far away from the cluster of material universes. Material scientists cannot even estimate the number of planets and the stars within this universe. They are also incapable of traveling to other stars by spaceship. According to Bhagavad Gita 8.20, there is also spiritual world. Parastasmatu bhavonyo avyakto vyaktatat sanatana yasa sarveshu bhuteshu nasyatsu na vinashyati. Yet there is another unmanifested nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. Thus, there is another nature which is superior to material nature. The word bhava or swabhava refers to nature. The spiritual nature is eternal, and even when all the material universes are destroyed, the planets in the spiritual world abide. They remain exactly as a spirit soul remains even after annihilation of the material body. That spiritual world is called aprakrita, anti-material world. In this transcendental spiritual world or universe, the highest planetary system is known as the Golok Vrindavan. That is the abode of Lord Krishna himself, who is also spiritual, who is also all spiritual. Krishna is known there as Aprakrita Madana. The name Madana refers to Cupid, but Krishna is the spiritual Madana. His body is not material like the body of Cupid in this material universe. Krishna's body is all spiritual, Satchidananda Vigraha. Therefore, he is called Aprakrita Madana. He is also known as Manmatha Madana, which means that he is attractive even to Cupid. Sometimes Krishna's activities and attractive features are misinterpreted by cross materialistics who accuse him of being immoral because he danced with the gopis. But such an accusation results from not knowing that Krishna is beyond this material world. His boy, his body is a Satchidananda Vigraha, completely spiritual. There is no material contamination in his body. and one should not consider his body a lump of flesh and bones. The Mayavadi philosophers conceive of Krishna's body as material, and this is an abominable, grossly materialistic conception. Just as Krishna is completely spiritual, the gopis are also spiritual, and this is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 5.37. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pravita Vitabhistabhirya Eva Nija Rupataya Kalabhi Goloka Eva Nivasati Akilatma Bhuto Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord. He resides in his own realm Goloka with Radha, who resembles his own spiritual figure and who embodies the ecstatic potency Hladini. Their companions are her confidants, who embody extensions of her bodily form and who are imbued and permeated with ever blissful spiritual rasa. The gopis are also of the same spiritual quality, Nija Rupataya, because they are expansions of Krishna's pleasure potency. Neither Krishna nor the gopis have anything to do with the lumps of matter or material conception. In the material world, the living entity is engaged within the material body, and due to ignorance, he thinks that he's the body. Therefore, here the enjoyment of lusty desires between the male and female is all material. One cannot compare the lusty desires of a materialistic man to the transcendental lusty desires of Krishna. Unless one is advanced in spiritual science, he cannot understand the lust desires between Krishna and the gopis. In the Caitanya Charitamrta, the lusty desires of the gopis is compared to gold. The lusty desires of a materialistic man, on the other hand, are compared to an iron. At no stage can iron and gold be equal. The living entities moving and non-moving are part and parcel of Krishna. Therefore, they originally had the same kind of lusted desires as his. But when this lusted desire is expressed through matter, it is abominable. When a living entity is spiritually advanced and liberated from material bondage, he can understand Krishna in truth, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 4.9. जन्म कर्म च मे दिव्यम एवं यो वेति तत्वतः त्यक्त्वा देहं पुनर्जन्म नैति मामेति so Arjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjun. When one can understand the body of Krishna as well as Lord's lusted desires, one is immediately liberated. A conditioned soul engaged within the material body cannot understand Krishna, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.3. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kaschid mam veti tattvataha. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. The word Siddhaya indicates liberation. Only after being liberated from material conditioning, one can understand Krishna. When one can understand Krishna as he is, that is Tattvataha, one actually lives in the spiritual world, although apparently living within the material world. This technical science can be understood when one is actually spiritually advanced. In his Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu 1.2.187, Srila Rupa Goswami says, Iha yasya harirtasya karmana manasagiri nikhilasva api avastasu jivan mukta sa uchyate. When a person in this material world desires only to serve Krishna with love and devotion, he is liberated even though functioning within this material world. As Bhagavad Gita 14.26 confirmed, Mam chayo vyabicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityatam brahma bhuyaya kalpayate. One who engages in full devotion service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Simply by engaging in the loving service of the Lord, one can attain liberation. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 18.54, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kamshati. A person who is highly advanced in spiritual knowledge and who has attained the Brahma Bhuta stage neither laments nor hankers for anything material. That is the stage of spiritual realization. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur considers the Brahma Bhuta stage in two divisions, Swarupagata and Vastugata. One who has understood Krishna in truth but is still maintaining some material connection is known to be situated in Swarupa, his original consciousness. When that original consciousness is completely spiritual, it is called Krishna consciousness. One who lives in such consciousness is actually living in Vrindavan. We may live anywhere, material location doesn't matter. When by the grace of Krishna one thus advances, he becomes completely uncontaminated by the material body and mind, and at that time factually lives in Vrindavan. That stage is called Vastugata. Very well. One should execute his spiritual activities in the Sarupgata stage of consciousness. He should also chant such spiritual mantras as Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya and the Chinmayi Gayatri, Klim Krishnaya Govindaya, Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha, and Klim Kamadevaya, Vidmahi Pushpabanaya, Dhimahi Tanno Anangha Prachodayata. These are the Kam Gayatri or the Kam Beej mantras. One should be initiated by a bona fide spiritual master and worship Krishna with these transcendental mantras. As explained by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in the previous verse and the current verse, Vrindavane aprakata navina madana kama gayatri kama bije yanra upasana purusha yosit kiba sthavara jangama sarva chitta karashaka sakshat manumatha madana. A person who is properly purified and initiated by a spiritual master worships worships the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna, by chanting this mantra, the Kam Gayatri with the Kama Bija. As Bhagavad Gita 18.65 confirms, one should engage in transcendental worship in order to be fit or being attracted by Krishna, the all attractive. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mam ivashyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. Always think of me and become my devotee. Worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Since every living entity is part and parcel of Krishna, Krishna is naturally attractive. Due to material covering, one's attraction for Krishna is checked. One is not usually attracted by Krishna in the material world, but as soon one is liberated from material conditioning, he is naturally attracted. Therefore, it is said in this verse, Sarva Chitra Karakshaka, everyone is naturally attracted by Krishna. This attraction is within everyone's heart, and when the heart is cleansed, that attraction is manifested. Cheto darpanamarjanam bhava mahatavagni nirvapanam. Text 140. Tasam avirbhuja chaurihi smayamana mukhambuja pitambara Sravagvi Sakshan Manmatha. Translation. When Krishna left the Ras Leela dance, the gopis became very morose. And when they were grieving, Krishna reappeared dressed in yellow garments. Wearing a flower garland and smiling, he was attractive even to Cupid. In this way, Krishna appeared among the gopis. Purport. This verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 32nd chapter and 2nd verse. Text 141. Nana bhaktira rasamrita, nana vidha haya, sei sabarasamritera, vishaya ashraya. Translation. Each and every devotee has a certain type of transcendental mellow in relation to Krishna. But in all transcendental relationships, the devotee is the worshipper, Ashraya, and Krishna is the object of worship, Vishaya. Text 142. Akhila Rasamrita Murti Prasaramara Ruchirdha Taraka Pali Kalita Shama Lalito Radha Priyan Vidhurjayati. Translation. Let Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, be glorified. By virtue of his expanding attractive features, he subjugated the gopis named Taraka and Pali and absorbed the minds of Shama and Lalita. He is the most attractive lover of Srimati Radharani and is reservoir of pleasure for devotees in all transcendental mellows. Purport. Everyone has a particular transcendental mellow by which he loves and serves Krishna. Krishna is the most attractive feature for every kind of devotee. He is therefore called Akhila Rasamrit Murti, the transcendental form of attraction for all kinds of devotees, whether the devotee be in the Shantaras, Dasyaras, Sakhyaras, Vatsalyaras, or Madhuryaras. This is the opening verse of Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami. Text 143. Shringararasa Raja Maya Murti Dhara Atvaiva Atma Paryanta Sarva Chittahara. Translation. Krishna is all attractive for devotees in all mellows because he is the personification of the conjugal mellow. Krishna is attractive not only to all the devotees but to himself as well. Text 144. Vishvesham Anuragyenena Janyan Anandam Indivara Srini Shamala Komalaya Upanayan Angir Angotsavam Swachadam Vraja Sundarbhir Abhita Prati Angam Alingata Shringara Sakhi Murtiman Iva Madhav Mugdho Harir Kridati. Translation. My dear friends, just see how Sri Krishna is enjoying the season of spring. With the gopis embracing each of his limbs, he is like an amorous love personified. With his transcendental pastimes, he enlivens all the gopis and the entire creation. With his soft bluish black arms and legs, which resemble blue lotus flowers, he has created a festival for Cupid. Purport. This is a verse from Gita Govinda 1.11. Text 145. Lakshmi Kantadi Avatarera Harer Mana Lakshmi Adi Nari Ganera Kare Akarshana. He also attracts Narayana, who is incarnation of Sankarshan and the husband of goddess of fortune. He attracts not only Narayana, but also all women, headed by the goddess of fortune, the consort of Narayana. Text 146. Dvijatmaja me yuvayor didrikshana mayo panita bhuvi dharma guptaye kalavatirnav avanir bharasuran hatveha bhuyastvaraye tam antime. Translation. Addressing Krishna and Arjun, Lord Mahavishnu, the Mahapurush, said, I wanted to see both of you, and therefore I have brought the sons of the Brahmanas here. Both of you have appeared in the material world to re-establish religious principles, and you have both appeared here with all your potencies. After killing all the demons, please quickly return to the spiritual world. Purport. This is quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 89, verse 58, concerning Krishna's endeavor to take Arjun beyond the material universe when Arjun was searching for the sons of Brahmana. Lord Mahavishnu, who is situated beyond this material world, was also attracted by bodily features of Krishna. Mahavishnu had actually stolen the sons of the Brahmana in Dwarka so that Krishna and Arjun would come visit him. This verse is quoted to show that Krishna is so attractive that he attracts Mahavishnu. Text 147. कास्यनुभवो अस्य न देव विद्महे तावाङ्घ्रिहुरेणु स्पर्शसाधिकार यद्वाञ्छर्य श्रीर्लल्लं चरत्तपो विहाय कामांशु चिरं धृतव्रता. O Lord, we do not know how the serpent Kaliya attained such an opportunity to be touched by the dust of your lotus feet. For this end, the goddess of fortune performed austerities for centuries, giving up all desires and observing austere vows. Indeed, we do not know how this serpent Kaliya got such an opportunity. Purport. This verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 16th chapter, 36th verse, and was spoken by the wives of Kaliya serpent. Text 148. Apana madhurye hare apnar mana apana apani chahe karite alingana. Lord Krishna's sweetness is so attractive that it steals away his own mind. Thus even he wants to embrace himself. Text 149. अपरिकलिता पूर्वा कश्चमत्कारकरी स्फूर्ति मम गारियान एषा माधुर्या पुरा आयम अहम अपि हंता प्रेक्षयाम लुब्ध चेतः सरभासम उपभोक्तुम कामैरादिकेव. Translation. Upon seeing his own reflection in a bejeweled pillar of his Dwarka palace, Krishna desired to embrace it, saying, Alas, I have never seen such a person before. Who is he? Just by seeing him, I become eager to embrace him, just exactly like Srimati Radharani. Purport. This is a verse from Srila Rupa Goswami's Lalita Madhav 8.34. Text 150. Eta Sankshepa Kahila Krishnera Sarupa Eva Sankshepa Kahisana Radha Tattva Rupa. Translation. Sri Rāmānanda Rāya then said, I have thus briefly explained the original form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, let me describe the position of Srimati Radha. Text 151. Krishnera Ananta Shakti Tatiti na Pradhana Chitta Shakti Maya Shakti Jiva Shakti Nama. Krishna has unlimited potencies which can be divided into three main parts. These are spiritual potency, the marginal potency, and the material potency, which is known as the living entities. Text 152. These are the spiritual potency, the material potency, and the marginal potency, which is known as the living entities. Antaranga bahiranga tatastha kahi yare antaranga sarupa shakti sabara upare. In other words, these are all potencies of Lord, internal, external, and marginal. But internal potency is Lord's personal energy and stands over the other two. Text 153. Vishnu Shakti para prokta Kshetra Jnanakya tatha para Avidya Karma Samjnana Tritiya Shaktir Ishyate. The original potency of Lord Vishnu is superior or spiritual, and the living entity actually belongs to that superior energy. But there is another energy called the material energy, and this third energy is full of ignorance. And this third energy is full of ignorance. Purport. This is quotation from Vishnu Purana 6.7.61. Text 154. Satchidanandamaya Krishnera Sarupa Ateva Sarupa Shakti Hayatina Rupa. Originally, the Lord Krishna is Satchidananda Vigraha, the transcendental form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. Therefore, his personal potency, the internal potency, has three different forms. Text 155. Anandam se hladini, sad am se sandhini, chid am se samvit, yare jnana kari mani. Hladini is his aspect of bliss, Sandhini of eternal existence, and Samvit of cognizance, which is also accepted as knowledge. Hladini Sandhini Samvit Tvaya Eka Sarva Samshaya Ladtapa Kari Mishra Tvayi No Guna Varjite. Translation. My dear Lord, you are transcendental reservoir of all transcendental qualities. Your pleasure potency, existent potency, and knowledge potency are actually all one internal spiritual potency. The conditioned soul, although actually spiritual, sometimes experience pleasure, sometimes pain, and sometimes a mixture of pain and pleasure. This is due to his being touched by matter. But because you are above all material qualities, these are not found in you. Your superior spiritual potency is completely transcendental. And for you, there is no such thing as relative pleasure, pleasure mixed with pain or pain itself. Purport. This is quotation from Vishnu Purana 1.12.69. Sorry. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, please carry. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Come again.
Whenever you feel tired, make a bata.
Sure.
मैं इधर ही बैठा.
Thank you. Text 157. कृष्ण के हला देता ते नाम हल्लादिनी से शक्ति द्वारे सुख आस्वादे आपनी. Translation.
The potency called Halladini gives Krishna transcendental pleasure. Through this pleasure potency, Krishna personally tastes all spiritual pleasure. Text 158. Sukha Rupa Krishna Kare Sukha Aswadan Bhaktagane Sukha Dite Halladini Karana. Translation: Lord Krishna tastes all kinds of transcendental happiness, although he himself is happiness personified. The pleasure relished by his pure devotees is also manifested by his pleasure potency. Text 159. Halladini nirasar amasa tara premana Anand Chinmaya Rasa Premera Akhyana. Translation: The most essential part of this pleasure potency is love of Godhead, Prem. Consequently, the explanation of love of Godhead is also oh, Sanskrit में? Oh, okay. 159. The most essential part of this pleasure potency is love of Godhead Prema. Consequently, the explanation of the love of Godhead is also transcendental mellow, full of pleasure. Text 160. The essential part of the love of Godhead is called Mahabhava, transcendental ecstasy, and that ecstasy is represented by Srimati Radharani. Text 161. Among the gopis of Vrindavana, Srimati Radharani and another gopi are considered chief. But when we compare the gopis, it appears that Srimati Radharani is most important because her real feature expresses the highest ecstasy of love. The ecstasy of love experienced by the other gopis cannot be compared to that of Srimati Radharani. Purport. This is quotation from Srila Rupa Goswami's Ujjvala Nilamani, Radha Prakaran, Chapter 3, Text 162. The body of Srimati Radharani is a veritable transformation of love of Godhead. She is the dearmost friend of Krishna, and this is known throughout the world. Text 163. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who resides in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha, who resembles his own spiritual figure and who embodies the ecstatic potency Halladini. Their companions are her confidants, who embody extensions of her bodily form and who are imbued and permeated with ever blissful spiritual rasa. Purport. This quotation from Brahma Samhita 5.37. Text 164. The supreme ecstasy of Srimati Radharani is essence of spiritual life. Her only business is to fulfill all the desires of Krishna. Text 165. Srimati Radharani is the topmost spiritual gem, and the other gopis, Lalita, Vishakha, and so on, are expansions of her spiritual body. Text 166. Translation. Srimati Radharani's transcendental body is brilliant in luster. Lord Krishna's affection for her is like a perfumed message. Purport. Sugandhi Udvarna refers to a paste made of several perfumes and fragrant oil. This paste is massaged all over the body. This massaged all over the body. And in this way, the body's dirt and perspirations are removed. Srimati Radharani's body is automatically perfumed. But when her body is massaged with the scent paste of Lord Krishna's affection, her entire body is doubly perfumed and made brilliant and lustrous. This is the beginning of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's description of Srimati Radharani's transcendental body. This description, found in verse 165 to 181, is based on a book by Sri Raghunath Das Goswami known as Prema, Bhoja uh, Maranda. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's translation of the original Sanskrit reads as follows. The love of the gopis or Krishna is full of transcendental ecstasy. It appears to be a brilliant jewel, and enlightened by such a transcendental jewel, Radharani's body is further perfumed and decorated with kumkuma. In the morning, her body is bathed in the nectar of compassion. In the afternoon, in the nectar of youth, and in the evening, in the nectar of luster itself. In this way, the bathing is performed, and her body becomes as brilliant as the Chintamani jewel. She is dressed in various kinds of silken garments, one of which is her natural shyness. Her body is more and more enhanced, being decorated with the red kumkuma of conjugal love. Thus, her body is decorated with different colors. Her ornaments embody the natural symptoms of ecstasy, trembling, tears, jubilation, stunning, perspiration, faltering, faltering of the voice, bodily redness, madness, and dullness. In this way, her entire body is bedecked with these 9 different jewels. In this way, her entire body is bedecked with these 9 different jewels. Over and above these, the beauty of her body is enhanced by her transcendental qualities, which constitutes the flower garland hanging on her body. The ecstasy of love for Krishna is known as dhira and adhira, sober and restless. Such ecstasy constitutes the covering of Srimati Radharani's body, and it is adorned by Kempur. Her transcendental anger toward Krishna is embodied as the arrangement of the hair on her head, and the tilaka of her great fortune shines on her beautiful forehead. Srimati Radharani's earrings are the holy names of Krishna, as well as the hearing of his name and fame. Her lips are always reddish due to the betel nut of ecstasy of affection for Krishna. The black ointment around her eyes is her tricky behavior with Krishna, brought about by her love. Her joking with Krishna and gentle smiling constitutes the camphor with which she is perfumed. She sleeps on her room with the aroma of pride, and when she lies down on her bed, The transcendental variety of her loving ecstasies is like a jewel located in the mines of her necklace of separation. Her transcendental breasts are covered by her sari in the form of affection and anger toward Krishna. She has a stringed instrument known as kacha, kachapi vina, which is the fame and fortune that actually dries up the face and breast of the other gopis. She always keeps her hands on the shoulder of her gopi friend, who represents her youthful beauty. And although she is highly qualified with so many spiritual assets, she is nonetheless affected by the cupid known as Krishna. Thus, she is defeated. Sri Raghunath Das Goswami offers his respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani, taking a straw in his mouth. Indeed, he prays, O Gandharvika Srimati Radharani, just as Lord Krishna never rejects a surrendered soul, please don't reject me. This is a summary translation of the Prema Bhuja Maranda, which Kaviraj Goswami quotes. Text 167. Srimati Radharani takes her first bath in the shower of the nectar of compassion, and she takes her second bath in the nectar of youth. Purport. Srimati Radharani first smears her body with the paste of Krishna's affection for her. She then takes her bath in the water of mercy. After passing the Ponganda age from 5 to 10 years, Srimati Radharani first appears as mercy. The second bath is taken at noon in the water of Tarunyaamrita or nectar of youth. This is the actual expression of her new youthfulness. Text 168 translation. After her midday bath, Radharani takes another bath in the nectar of bodily luster, and she put on the garment of shyness, which is her black silk sari. Purport. Over and above the other baths, the bath taken in the afternoon is taken in the nectar of full beauty. This nectar represents the personal qualities of beauty and luster. Thus, there are three baths in different kinds of water. Radharani then puts on two garments, a lower and an upper garment. The upper garment is pinkish, and her affection and the attraction for Krishna, and the lower garment, a blackish silk sari, is her shyness. Text 169. Srimati Radharani's affection for Krishna is her upper garment, which is pinkish in color. She then covers her breast with another garment, composed of affection and anger toward Krishna. Text 170. Srimati Radharani's personal beauty is the reddish powder known as kumkuma. Her affection for her associates is sandalwood, and the sweetness of her smile is camphor. All this combined together are smeared over her body. Text 171. Conjugal love for Krishna is an abundance of musk, and with that musk, her whole body is decorated. Text 172. Craftiness and covert anger constitutes the arrangement of her hair. The quality of anger due to jealous is the silk garment covering her body. Text 173. Her attachment for Krishna is the reddish color of betel nut on her brilliant lips. Her double dealing in loving a face constitutes the black ointment around her eyes. Text 174. The ornaments decorating her body are the blazing ecstasy of goodness and the constantly existing ecstasies headed by jubilation. All these ecstasies are the ornaments all over her body. Text 175. Also ornamenting her body are the 20 kinds of ecstatic symptoms beginning with Kila Kinchita. Her transcendental qualities constitute the flower garland hanging in fullness all over her body. Purport. The 20 different moods headed by Kilkinchita are described as follows. First, in connection with the body, there are bhava, ecstasy, bhava, gesture, tahela, negligence. In relation to the self, there are sobha, beauty, kanti, luster, dipti, brilliance, madhurya, sweetness, pragalpata, impudence, audarya, magnanimity, and dhairya, patience. And in relation to nature, there are lila, pastimes, vilasa, enjoyment, vichitti, breaking off, the Brahma, puzzlement. There are no English equivalent for the words kila kinchita, motaita, and kuttamita. Srimati Radharani's flower garland consists of her qualities and is divided into mental, verbal, and bodily parts. Her attitude of forgiveness and mercy is all mental. Her talks, which are very pleasing to the ear, are verbal. The bodily qualities are age, beauty, luster, and grace. Text 176. The tilaka of good fortune is on her beautiful broad forehead. Her various loving affairs are a gem, and her heart is the locket. Text 177. Srimati Radharani's gopi friends are her mental activities, which are concentrated on the pastimes of Sri Krishna. She keeps her hand on the shoulder of a friend who represents youth. Purport. Radharani's 8 companions, Astasakhi, are different varieties of pleasure connected with the pastimes of Krishna. Following those pastimes of Sri Krishna are other activities which are represented by the assistant of the gopis. Text 178. Srimati Radharani's bedstead is pride itself, and it is situated in abode of her bodily aroma. She is always seated there thinking of Krishna's association. Text 179. Srimati Radharani's earrings are the name, fame, and quality of Lord Krishna. The glories of Lord Krishna's name, fame, and qualities are always inundating her speech. Text 180. Srimati Radharani induces Krishna to drink the honey of the conjugal relationship. She is therefore engaged in satisfying all the lusty desires of Krishna. Text 181. Srimati Radharani is a smile filled with valuable jewels of love for Krishna. Her transcendental body is complete with unparalleled spiritual qualities. Text 182. If one asks about the origin of love of Krishna, the answer is that the origin is in Srimati Radharani alone, who is the dearmost friend of Krishna. The answer again is Srimati Radharani alone, no one else. Srimati Radharani's hair is very curly. Her two eyes are always moving to and fro, and her breasts are firm. Since all transcendental qualities are manifested in Srimati Radharani, she alone is able to fulfill all the desire of Krishna, no one else. Purport. This is a quotation from Sri Govinda Lilamrita 11.122 by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. It is a verse in the form of question and answers describing the glories of Srimati Radharani. Text 183 and 184. Even Satyabhama, one of the queen of Sri Krishna, desires the fortune, position, and excellent qualities of Srimati Radharani. All the gopis learned the art of dressing from Srimati Radharani. And even the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, and the wife of Lord Shiva, Parvati, desire her beauty and qualities. Indeed, Arundhati, the celebrated chaste wife of Vasistha, also wants to imitate the chastity and religious principles of Srimati Radharani. Text 185. Even Lord Krishna himself cannot reach the limits of transcendental qualities of Srimati Radharani. How then can an insignificant living entity count them? Text 186. Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu replied, now I have come to understand the truth of the loving affairs between Radha and Krishna. Nonetheless, I still want to hear how both of them gloriously enjoy such love. Text 187. Rāmānanda replied, Lord Krishna is Dhira Lalita. For her, he can always keep his girlfriends in a subjugated state. Thus, his only business is enjoying sense gratification. Purport. We should always remember that Krishna's sense gratification is never to be compared to the sense gratification of the material world. As we have already explained, Krishna's sense gratification is just like gold. The perverted reflection of the sense gratification found in the material world is just like iron. The purport is that Krishna is not impersonal. He has all the desires that manifest in the perverted reflection within this material world. However, the qualities are different. One is spiritual and the other is material. Just as there is a difference between life and death, there is a difference between spiritual sense gratification and material sense gratification. Text 188. A person who is very cunning and always youthful, expert in joking and without an anxiety, and who can keep his girlfriends always subjugated is called Dhira Lalita. Purport. This verse is from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, chapter 2, 1, 230. Text 189. Day and night, Lord Shri Krishna enjoys the company of Srimati Radharani in the bushes of Vrindavana. Thus, his pre-youthful age is fulfilled through his affairs with Srimati Radharani. Text 190. Thus, Lord Shri Krishna spoke of the sexual activities of the previous night. In this way, he made Srimati Radharani close her eyes out of shyness. Taking this opportunity, Sri Krishna painted various types of dolphins on her breast. Thus, he became a very expert artist for all the gopis. During such pastimes, the Lord enjoyed the fulfillment of his youth. Purport: this quotation is also found in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, chapter 2, sloka number 119. Text 191. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "This is all right, but please continue." Purport. At that time, Rāmānanda replied, "I don't think my intelligence goes beyond this." Text 192. Rāmānanda then informed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that there was another topic known as Prema Vilasa Vivarta. "You may hear of this from me," Rāmānanda Rai said, "but I do not know whether you will be happy with it or not." Purport. These statements are set forth for our understanding. According to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in this Amrita Pravarta Bhasya, in essence, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Rāmānanda Rai, "My dear Rāmānanda, the explanation you have given about the goal of life and the pastimes of Srimati Radharani and Krishna is certainly the truth. Although this is factual, you can continue telling me more if there is anything more to say." In a reply, Ramananda Rai said, "I do not think I have anything to say beyond this. But there is a topic known as Prema Vilasa Vivarta, which I may explain to you. I do not know whether it will bring to you happiness or not." Text 193. Saying this, Ramananda Rai began to sing a song he had composed. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, out of the ecstasy of love of Godhead, immediately covered Ramananda Rai's mouth with his own hand. Purport. The topics that are about to be discussed between Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai cannot be understood by a materialistic poet, nor by intelligence or material perception. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur states that the spiritual mellows can be realized only when one is situated on the transcendental platform beyond the material stage of goodness. That platform is called Vishuddha Sattva. Vishuddha Sattvam Visuddham Vasudeva Sabaditam. Realization of the Vishuddha Sattva platform is beyond the pale of the material world and is not perceived by bodily senses or mental speculation. Our, our identification with the gross body and subtle mind is different from spiritual understanding. Since the intelligence and mind are material, the loving affairs of Srimati Radharani and Krishna are beyond their perception. Sarvopadhi vinirmuktam tata parvatena nirmalam. When we are free from all material designations and our senses are completely purified by the bhakti process, we can understand the sense activities of the absolute truth. Rishikesa sevanam bhaktira uchyate. The spiritual senses are beyond the material senses. A materialist can think only of the negation of material variety. He cannot understand spiritual variety. He thinks that spiritual variety simply contradicts material variety and is a negation of or void. But such conceptions cannot even reach the precincts of spiritual realization. The wonderful activities of the gross body and subtle mind are always imperfect. They are below the degree of spiritual understanding and are ephemeral. The spiritual mellow is eternally wonderful and is described as Purana Suddha Nitya Mukta. Purana Suddha Nitya Mukta. That is complete, perfectly pure, and eternally liberated from all material conceptions. When we are unable to fulfill our material desires, there is certainly sorrow and confusion. This may be described as vivarta, but in spiritual life, there is no sorrow, inability, or imperfection. Sri Rāmānanda Rāya was expert in realizing the spiritual activities of Srimati Radharani and Krishna. And Rāmānanda's spiritual experience was placed before Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu as he inquired whether the Lord approved his realization of spiritual truths. There are three books prominent in this connection. One was written by Bhakta Dasa Baula and is called Vivarta Vilas. Another was compiled by Jagannath Pandita and is called Prema Vivarta. Sri Rāmānanda Rai's book is called Prema Vilasa Vivarta. The Vivarta Vilas by Bhaktadas Baula is completely different from the other two books. Sometimes a university student or professor tries to study these transcendental literatures and attempts to put forth a critical analysis from the mundane view with an end to receiving degrees like a PhD. Such realization is certainly different from that Rāmānanda Rāya. If one actually want to take a PhD degree from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and be approved by Rāmānanda Rāya, he must first become free from all material designations. Sarvopadir vinirmuktam tata paravartena nirmalam. A person who identifies with his material body cannot understand these talks between Sri Rāmānanda Rāya and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Men by religious scriptures and transcendental philosophical talks are quite different. Indeed, there is a gulf of difference between the two. This subject matter has been very diligently described by Sriman Madhavacharya. Since the material philosophers are situated in the material conception of life, they are unable to realize the spiritual prema vilas vivarta. They cannot accommodate the elephant upon a dish. Similarly, mundane speculators cannot capture the spiritual elephant within their limited conception. It is just like a frog trying to measure the Atlantic Ocean by imagining it so many times larger than his well. Materialistic philosophers and Sahajyas cannot understand the talks between Rāmānanda Rāya and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu concerning the pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna. The only tendency of the impersonalist or the Prakatya Sahajyas is to face the platform of impersonalism. They cannot understand spiritual variegatedness. Consequently, when Rāmānanda Rāya attempted to sign his own verses, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stabbed him by covering his mouth with his own hand. Text 194. Alas, before we met, there was an initial attachment between us, brought about by an exchange of glances. In this way, attachment evolved. That attachment has gradually grown, and there is no limit to it. Now, that attachment has become a natural sequence between ourselves. It is not that it is due to Krishna, the enjoyer, nor is it due to me. for I am enjoyed. It is not like that. This attachment was made possible by mutual meeting. This mutual exchange of attraction is known as manobhava or Cupid. Krishna's mind and my mind have merged together. Now, during this time of separation, it is very difficult to explain these loving affairs. My dear friend, though Krishna might have forgotten all these things, you can understand and bring this message to him. But during our first meeting, there was no messenger between us, nor did I request anyone to see him. Indeed, Cupid's 5 arrows were our via media. Now, during this separation, that attraction has increased to another ecstatic state. My dear friend, please act as a messenger on my behalf. Because if one is in love with a beautiful person, this is the consequences. Purport. These verses were originally composed and sung by Rāmānanda Rāya himself. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur suggests that during the time of conjugal enjoyment, the attachment might be compared to Cupid himself. However, during the period of separation, Cupid becomes a messenger of highly elevated love. This is called a prema vilasa vivarta. When there is a separation, conjugal enjoyment itself acts like a messenger, and that messenger was addressed by Srimati Radharani as a friend. The essence of this transaction is that transcendental loving affairs are as relishable during separation as during conjugal enjoyment. When Srimati Radharani was fully absorbed in love of Krishna, she mistook a black tamala tree for Krishna and embraced it. Such a mistake is called Prema Vilas Vivarta. Text 195. O my Lord, you live in the forest of Govardhana Hill, and like the king of elephants, you are expert in the art of conjugal love. O Master of the universe, your heart and Srimati Radharani's heart are just like Shela and are now melted in our spiritual perspiration. Therefore, one can no longer distinguish between you and Srimati Radharani. Now you have mixed your newly invoked affection, which is like vermilion, with your melted hearts, and for the benefit of the whole world, you have painted both your hearts red within this great palace of the universe. Purport this verse quoted by Rāmānanda Rai is included in Srila Rupa Goswami's Ujjvala Nilamani, Sthai Bhava Prakarana 155. Text 196. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirmed this verses recited by Sri Rāmānanda Rai, saying, "This is the limit of goal of human life. Only by your mercy have I come to understand it conclusively." Text 197. The goal of life cannot be achieved unless one practices the process. Now, being merciful upon me, please explain that means by which this goal can be attained. 198. Text 198. Sri Ramananda Rai replied, "I do not know what I am saying, but you have made me speak what I have spoken. Be it good or bad, I am simply repeating that message." Text 199. Within these three worlds, who is so undisturbed that he can remain steady as you manipulated your different energies? Text 200. Actually, you are speaking through my mouth, and at the same time, you are listening. This is very mysterious. Anyway, kindly hear and explain of the process by which the goal can be attained. Purport. Srila Sanatana Goswami has advised us to hear about Krishna from Vaishnava, from a Vaishnava. He has explicitly forbidden us to hear from an Vaishnava. Vaishnava Mukha Mukodhiranam Putam Dhari Katamritam Sravanam Neva Kartavyayam Saropachistam Yathapayam. Thus, quoting from Padma Purana, Srila Sanatana Goswami warns that one should not hear anything about Krishna from an Vaishnava. However great a mundane scholar he may be, milk touched by the lips of a serpent has poisonous effects. Similarly, talks about Krishna given by an Vaishnava are also poisonous. However, because a Vaishnava is surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his talks are spiritually potent. In the Bhagavad Gita 10.10, the Supreme Personality of Godhead says, Tesam satata yuktana bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam ginamamupayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted to worshipping me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. When a pure Vaishnava speaks, he speaks perfectly. How is this? His speech is managed by Krishna himself from within the heart. Sri Rāmānanda accepts this benediction from Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu. Therefore, he admits that whatever he was speaking was not derived from his own intelligence. Rather, everything was coming from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, according to Bhagavad Gita 15.15. Sarvasya chaham hrudi sannivisto matta smritirjnanapamohanam cha Vaidesya sarvairahamaeva vedyo Vedanta krutuved videva chaham. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of the Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. All intelligence emanates from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supersoul within the heart of everyone. Non-devotees want to ask the Supreme Lord for sense gratification. Therefore, non-devotees come under the influence of Maya, the illusory energy. A devotee, however, is directed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and comes to under the influence of Yoga Maya. Consequently, there is a gulf of difference between statements made by a devotee and those made by a non-devotee. Text 201. The pastimes of Radha and Krishna are very confidential. They cannot be understood through the mellows of servitude, fraternity, or parental affection. Text 202. Actually, only the gopis have a right to appreciate these transcendental pastimes, and only from them can these pastimes be expanded. Text 203. Without the gopis, these pastimes between Radha and Krishna cannot be nourished. Only by their cooperation are such pastimes broadcast. It is their business to taste the mellows. Text 204 and 205. Without the help of the gopis, one cannot enter into these pastimes. Only one who worships the Lord in the ecstasy of the gopis, following in their footsteps, can engage following in their footsteps, can engage in the service of Sri Radha Krishna in the bushes of Vrindavan. Only then one can understand the conjugal love between Radha and Krishna. There is no another procedure for understanding purpose. The means for returning home, for going back to Godhead, is devotional service. But everyone has a different taste in the Lord's service. One may be inclined to serve the Lord in the servitude, dasyaras, fraternity, sakyarasa, or parental love, vatsalyarasa. But none of these can enable one to enter into the service of the Lord in conjugal love. To attain such service, one has to follow in the footsteps of the gopis in the ecstasy of a Sakhi Bhava. Then only can one understand the transcendental mellow of conjugal love. In the Ujjvala Nilamani Sakhi Prakarana, Srila Rupa Goswami advised, Prema Lila Vidharanama Samyam Vistaraka Sakhi Vishrumbharatna Peticha. One who explains the conjugal love of Krishna and his enjoyment among the gopis is called a Sakhi. Such a person is a confidential gopi in the conjugal affairs. Such assistants are like Jews in the form of Krishna's confidants. The actual business of the Sakhis is described thus in Ujjvala Nilamani Sakhi Prakaran 88 to 91. Mitha prema gunoptirtis tayor asaktir karita abhisaro vayor eva sakhya krishne samarpanam narmasmasno nepatyam hrudayo dhata patavam धीरा संवर्तितर एत्स्याः पत्य आदेह परिवञ्चना शिक्षा संगम मनिं काले सेवनं योज नादिभिः तायो द्वयोरुपालम्बा संदेश प्रश्न तथा नायिका प्राणं समरक्षा प्रयत्नायाः सखी क्रियाः. In the conjugal pastimes of Krishna, Krishna is the hero, Nayaka, and Radhika is the heroine, Nayika. The first business of the gopis is to chant the glories of both the hero and the heroine. Their second business is to gradually create a situation in which the hero may be attracted to the heroine and vice versa. Their third business is to induce both of them to approach each other. Their fourth business is to surrender unto Krishna, and the fifth is to create a jovial atmosphere. The sixth, to give them assurance to enjoy their pastimes. The seventh, to dress and decorate both hero and heroine. The eighth, to show expertise in expressing their desires. The ninth, to conceal the faults of the heroine. The 10th, to cheat their respective husbands and relatives. The 11th, to induce. The 12th, to enable both the hero and heroine to meet at the proper time. The 13th, to feign the hero and heroine. The 14th, to sometimes reapproach the hero and heroine. The 15th, to set conversation in motion. And the 16th, to protect the heroine by various means. Some materialistic sahajiyas who cannot actually understand the pastimes of Radha and Krishna manufacture their own lifestyles without referring to authority. Such Sahajiyas are called Sakhi Beki, and sometimes they are called Gaura Nagari. Gora Nagari. They believe that the material body, which is fit to be eaten by jackals and dogs, is enjoyable for Krishna. Consequently, they artificially decorate the material body to attract Krishna, thinking themselves Sakhis. But Krishna is never attracted by artificial grooming of the material body. As far as Srimati Radharani and the gopis are concerned, their bodies, homes, dresses, ornaments, endeavors, and activities are all spiritual. All of these are meant to satisfy the spiritual senses of Krishna. Indeed, they are so pleasing and enduring to Krishna that he is subjugated by the influence of Srimati Radharani and her friends. They have nothing to do with anything mundane within the 14 planetary systems of the universe. Although Krishna is attractive to everyone, he is nonetheless attracted by the gopis and Srimati Radharani. One should not be misled by mental concoctions, supposing his material body to be perfected and deeming oneself as Sakhi. This is something like ahangra, ahangrahopasana. That is a Mayavadi worship of his own body as the supreme. Srila Jiva Goswami has continued mundaners to abstain from such conceptions. He also warns that thinking oneself one of the associates of the Supreme without following in the footsteps of the gopis is an offensive as thinking oneself the Supreme. Such thinking is an aparadh. One has to practice living in a Vrindavan by hearing about the talks of gopis with Krishna. However, one should not consider himself as a gopi for this offensive. For this is offensive. Text 206. The pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna are self-effulgent. They are happiness personified, unlimited, and all-powerful. Even so, the spiritual humors of such pastimes are never complete without the gopis. The Lord's personal friends, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is never complete without his spiritual potencies. Therefore, unless one takes shelter of the gopis, one cannot enter into the company of Radha and Krishna, who can be interested in their spiritual pastimes without taking their shelter. Purport. This is quotation from Govinda Lilamrita 10.17 to 7. There is an inexplicable fact about the natural inclinations of the gopis. The gopis never wanted to enjoy themselves with Krishna personally. Text 208. The happiness of gopis increases 10 million times when they search to engage Sri Radha and Krishna in their transcendental pastimes. 209. By nature, Srimati Radharani is just like a creeper of love of Godhead, and the gopis are the twigs, flowers, and leaves of their creeper. 210. Text 210. When the nectar of Krishna's pastimes is sprinkled on that creeper, the happiness derived by twigs, flowers, and the leaves in 10 million times greater than that derived by the creeper itself. Purport. In his Amrita Pravadha Bhasya, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur states, Srimati Radharani is the creeper of love of Godhead. And the gopis are exactly like twigs, flowers, and leaves. When water is sprinkled on the creepers, the twigs, flowers, and leaves indirectly received all the benefits of the creeper itself. But whatever sprinkled directly on the twigs, leaves, and flowers is not as effective as water sprinkled on the creeper's root. The gopis are not as pleased when they directly mixed with Krishna as when they serve to unite Srimati Radharani with Krishna. Their transcendental pleasure lies in uniting them. 2:11. All the gopis, the personal friends of Srimati Radharani, are equal to her. Krishna is pleasing to the inhabitants of Brajabhumi, just as the moon is pleasing to the lotus flower. His pleasure-giving potency is known as Ahladini, of which the active principle is Srimati Radharani. She is compared to a creeper with newly grown flowers and leaves. When the nectar of Krishna's pastimes is sprinkled on the Srimati Radharani, all her friends and gopis immediately appreciated the pleasure 100 times more than if they were sprinkled themselves. Actually, this is not at all wonderful. Purport. This verse is also from Govinda Lilamrita. Okay, Prabhu, you want to read? Huh? No, it's not mine. You ask Leela Mata. She told you? Okay.
Text 212. Although the gopis, Srimati Radharani's friends, do not desire to enjoy themselves directly with Krishna, Srimati Radharani makes a great endeavor to induce Krishna to enjoy himself with the gopis. Text 213. Presenting various pleas for the gopis, Srimati Radharani sometimes sends the gopis to Krishna just to enable them to associate with him directly. At such times, she enjoys a happiness 10 million times greater than that enjoyed through direct association. Text 214. The transcendental mellow is nourished by that mutual behavior in transcendental love of Godhead. When Lord Krishna sees how the gopis have developed pure love for him, he becomes very satisfied. Purport. Srimati Radharani and the gopis are not interested in their personal happiness derived from association with Krishna. Rather, they become happy by seeing one another associate with Krishna. In this way, their dealings are further nourished by love of Godhead, and seeing this, Krishna is very pleased. Text 215. It is to be noted that natural characteristics of the gopis is to love the Supreme Lord. Their lusty desire is not to be compared to material lust. Nonetheless, because their desire sometimes appears to resemble material lust, their transcendental love for Krishna is sometimes described as lust. Purport. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that material lust should never be attributed to Krishna, who is full of transcendental knowledge. Material lust cannot be engaged in the service of Lord, for it is applicable to materialists, not to Krishna. Only prema, or love of Godhead, is applicable for the satisfaction of Krishna. Prema is full service rendered unto the Lord. The lusty affairs of the gopis actually constitute the topmost love of Godhead, because the gopis never act for their own personal satisfaction. They are simply pleased by engaging other gopis in the service of Lord. The gopis derive more transcendental pleasure from indirectly engaging other gopis in the service of Krishna than from engaging in his service themselves. That is the difference between material lust and love of Godhead. Lust applies to the material world, and love of Godhead applies only to Krishna. Text 216. Although the dealings of the gopis with Krishna are on the platform of pure love of Godhead, such dealings are sometimes considered to be lusty. But because they are completely spiritual, Uddhav and all other dearmost devotees of the Lord desire to participate in them. Purport. This is quotation from Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu 1.2.285. Text 217. Lusty desires are experienced when one is concerned with his own personal sense gratification. The mood of the gopis is not like that. Their only desire is to satisfy the senses of Krishna. Text 218. Among the gopis, there is not a pinch of desire for sense gratification. Their only desire is to give pleasure to Krishna, and this is why they mingle with him and enjoy with him. Text 219. All the gopis said, Dear Krishna, we are carefully hold your delicate lotus feet upon our hard breasts. When you walk in the forest, your soft lotus feet are pricked by small bits of stone. We fear that this is paining you. Since you are our life and soul, our minds are very much disturbed when your lotus feet are pained. This is quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.31.19. Text 220. One who is attracted by the ecstatic love of the gopis does not care about popular opinion or the regulative principles of Vedic life. Rather, he completely surrenders unto Krishna and renders service unto him. Text 221. If one worships the Lord on the path of spontaneous love and goes to Vrindavan, he receives the shelter of Rajendra Nandan, the son of Nanda Maharaj. Purport. In all, there are 64 items listed for the rendering of service unto Krishna. And these are regulative principles enjoined in the Shastras and given by the spiritual master. One has to serve Krishna according to these regulative principles. But if one develops spontaneous love for Krishna as exhibited in the activities of those who live in the Vraj Bhumi, one attains the platform of Raganuga Bhakti. One who has developed a spontaneous love is eligible for elevation to platform enjoyed by the inhabitants of the Vraj Bhumi. In Vraj Bhumi, there is no regulative principle set forth for Krishna's service. Rather, everything is carried out in spontaneous, natural love for Krishna. There is no question of following the principle of the Vedic system. Such principles are followed within this material world. As long as one is on the material platform, he has to execute them. However, spontaneous love of Krishna is transcendental. It may seem that the regulative principles are being violated, but the devotee is on transcendental platform. Such service is called Gunatita or Nirguna, for it is not contaminated by three modes of material nature. Text 222. In his liberated stage, the devotee is attracted by one of the five humors in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. As he continues to serve the Lord in that transcendental mood, he attains a spiritual body to serve Krishna in Golok Vrindavan. Text 223. Those saintly persons who represent the Upanishads are vivid examples of this. By worshipping the Lord on this path of spontaneous love, they attained the lotus feet of Rajendra Nandan, the Nanda of Nanda Maharaj, the son of Nanda Maharaj. Purport. In the Golok Vrindavan planet, Krishna's servants are headed by Raktaka and Patraka. Krishna's friends are headed by Sridama, Subal, and others. There are also elderly gopis and the cowherd men headed by Nanda Maharaj, Mother Yashoda, and others. All of these personalities are eternally engaged in the loving service of the Lord in accordance with their specific attachments for Krishna. One who wants to return home to serve the Lord directly may be attracted to Krishna as a servant, friend, father, or mother. If a person continuously serves Krishna during this life in a particular ecstasy, upon giving up the material body, he attains a spiritual body suitable for serving Krishna in terms of his particular attachment. One may serve as a servant, friend, father, or mother. In the same way, one who wants to serve Krishna in conjugal love can attain a body under the guidance of the gopis. In this connection, the most vivid example is provided by those saintly personalities known as Shrutis, who represent the Upanishads. The Shrutis understood that without having serving Krishna and following the footsteps of the gopis, there would be no possibility of their entering the kingdom of God and serving Krishna in the mood of conjugal love. Therefore, they engaged in spontaneous loving service unto Krishna and followed in the footsteps of gopis. Text 224. Great sages conquer the mind and senses by practicing the mystic yoga system and controlling the breath. Thus, engaging in mystic yoga, they see the supersoul within their hearts and ultimately enter into impersonal Brahman. But when the enemies of Supreme Personality of Godhead attain that position simply by thinking of the Supreme Lord, however, the damsels of Vraja, the gopis, being attracted by the beauty of Krishna, simply wanted to embrace him and his arms, which are like serpents. Thus, the gopis ultimately tasted the nectar of the lotus feet of the Lord. Similarly, we Upanishads can also taste the nectar of his lotus feet by following in the footsteps of the gopis. Purport. This is quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.87.23, spoken by the Shrutis, the personified Vedas. Text 225. The word samdrisha mentioned in the fourth line of the previous verse means following the mood of the gopis. The word samaha means the Shruti's attainment of bodies like those of the gopis. Text 226. The word Angri Padma Sudha means associating intimately with Krishna. One can attain such perfection only by spontaneous love of God. One cannot obtain Krishna in Goloka, Vrindavan, simply by serving the Lord according to regulative principles. Text 227. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, the son of Mother Yashoda, is accessible to those devotees engaged in spontaneous loving service. But he is not as accessible to mental speculators, to those striving for self-realization by severe austerities and penances, or to those who consider the body the same as the self. Purport. This verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 9th chapter, 21st verse, is spoken by Srila Shukadeva Goswami. It appears within a passage in which he glorifies Mother Yashoda and other devotees of Krishna by describing how they can subjugate him with their love. Text 228. Therefore, one should accept the mood of the gopis in their service. In such a transcendental mood, one should always think of the pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna. Text 229. After thinking of Radha and Krishna and their pastimes for a long time, and after getting completely free from material contamination, one is transferred to the spiritual world. There, the devotee attains an opportunity to serve Radha and Krishna as one of the gopis. Purport. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that the word Siddha Deha, perfected spiritual body, refers to body beyond the material gross body composed of 5 elements, and the subtle astral body composed of mind, intelligence, and false ego. In other words, one attains this completely spiritual body fit to render service to transcendental couple Radha and Krishna. Sarvopadhi vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmalam. When one is situated in his spiritual body, which is beyond this gross and subtle material body, he is fit to serve Radha and Krishna. That body is called Siddha Deha. The living entity attains a particular type of gross body in accordance with his past activities and mental condition. In this life, the mental condition changes in different ways, and the same living entity gets another body in the next life according to his desires. The mind, intelligence, and the false ego are always engaged in an attempt to dominate material nature. According to that subtle astral body, one attains the gross body to enjoy the objects of one's desires. According to activities of present body, one prepares another subtle body. And according to the subtle body, one attains another gross body. This is the process of material existence. However, when one is spiritually situated and does not desire a gross or subtle body, he attains his original spiritual body, as confirmed by the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita 4.9. Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti. So Arjuna, one is elevated to spiritual world by the spiritual body and is situated either in Golok Vrindavan or in another Vaikuntha planet. In the spiritual body, there are no longer material desires, and one is fully satisfied by rendering service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Radha and Krishna. This is the platform of bhakti. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. When the spiritual body, mind, and senses are completely purified, one can render service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his consort. In Vaikuntha, the consort is Lakshmi, and in Golok Vrindavan, the consort is Srimati Radharani. In the spiritual body, free from material contamination, one can serve Radha and Krishna and Lakshmi Narayana. When one is thus spiritually engaged, he no longer thinks of his own personal sense gratification. This spiritual body is called Siddha Deha, the body by which one can render transcendental service unto Radha and Krishna. The process is that of engaging the transcendental senses in loving devotional service. This verse specifically mentions Sakhi Bhave Paya Radha Krishnera Charana. Only transcendentally elevated persons in the mode of gopis can engage in the service of lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. Text 230. Unless one follows in the footsteps of gopis, he cannot attain the service of the lotus feet of Krishna, the son of Nand Maharaj. If one is overcome by knowledge of Lord's opulence, he cannot attain the Lord's lotus feet, even though he is engaged in devotional service. Purport. One can worship Lakshmi Narayan by process of Vidhi Marga, worshipping the Lord with regulative principles according to instructions of the Shastra and the spiritual master. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Radha Krishna, cannot be directly worshipped by this process. The dealings between Radha and Krishna and the gopis are devoid of the opulences of Lakshmi Narayan. The process of Vidhi Marga, following the regulative principles, is utilized in the worship of Lakshmi Narayan, whereas the process of spontaneous service, following in the footsteps of the gopis, who are the denizens of Vrindavan, is transcendently more advanced and is the process whereby Radha and Krishna are worshipped. One cannot attain this elevated position while worshipping the Lord in his opulence. Those attracted by the conjugal love between Radha and Krishna must follow in the footsteps of the gopis. Only then is it possible to enter into Lord service in Goloka Vrindavan and directly associate with Radha and Krishna. Text 231. The unspoken example in this connection is the goddess of fortune, who worshipped Lord Krishna in order to attain his pastimes in Vrindavan. But due to her opulent lifestyle, she could not attain the service of Krishna in Vrindavan. Text 232. When Lord Shri Krishna was dancing with the gopis in the Rasa lila, the gopis were embraced around the neck by Lord's arms. This transcendental favor was never bestowed upon the goddess of fortune or the other consorts of the spiritual world, nor was such a thing ever imagined by the most beautiful girls in the heavenly planets, girls whose bodily luster and aroma resemble the beauty and fragrance of lotus flowers. And what to speak of worldly women who may be very, very beautiful according to material estimation. Purport. This is quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 47th chapter, 60th verse. Text 233. After hearing this, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced Rāmānanda Rāya, and both of them, embracing shoulder to shoulder, began to cry. Text 234. The entire night was passed in this way, in ecstatic love of Godhead. In the morning, they both departed to tend to their respective duties. Text 235. Before departing from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Rāmānanda Rāya fell to the ground and caught hold of Lord's lotus feet. He then spoke submissively as follows. Text 236. Sri Rāmānanda Rāya said, "You have come here just to show me your causeless mercy. Therefore, stay here for at least 10 days and purify my polluted mind." Text 237. But for you, there is no one who can deliver all the living entities. For you alone can deliver love of Krishna. Text 238. The Lord replied, "Having heard about your good qualities, I have come here. I have come to hear about Krishna from you and thus purify my mind." Text 239. Now that I have actually seen your glories, what I heard about you is confirmed. As far as the pastimes of Radha and Krishna in a loving mood are concerned, you are the limit of knowledge. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu found Rāmānanda Rāya to be the best authority in transcendental knowledge of loving affairs between Radha and Krishna. In this verse, the Lord actually states that Rāmānanda Rāya was the limit of this knowledge. Text 240. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, "To say nothing of 10 days, as long as I live, I shall find it impossible to give up your company." Haribol. Text 241. You and I shall remain together at Jagannath Puri. We shall pass our time together in joy, talking about Krishna and his pastimes. Text 242. In this way, they both departed to perform their respective duties. Then, in the evening, Rāmānanda Rāya returned to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Text 243. Thus, they met time and time again, sitting in secluded place and jubilantly discussing devotional service by the question and answer process. Text 244. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked the questions and Sri Rāmānanda Rāya gave the answers. In this way, they were engaged in discussion throughout the night. Text 245. On one occasion, the Lord inquired, "Of all types of education, which is most important?" Purport. Rāmānanda Rāya replied, "No education is important than the transcendental devotional service of Krishna." Text 245 to 257 are all questions and answers between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Rāmānanda Rāya. In these exchanges, there is an attempt to show difference between material and spiritual existence. Education in Krishna consciousness is always transcendental and is best of all forms of education. Material education aims at increasing the activities of material sense gratification. Beyond material sense gratification is another negative form of knowledge called Brahma Vidya or impersonal transcendental knowledge. But beyond that, Brahma Vidya or knowledge of impersonal Brahman is knowledge of devotional service to the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. This knowledge is higher, and higher still is devotional service to Lord Krishna, which is the topmost form of education. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 29th chapter, 49th verse, Tat karma hari toshanam, yat sa vidya tanmatirya. Work meant for pleasing the Supreme Lord is the best, and education that enhances one's Krishna's consciousness is the best. Also, according to Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.23 and 24, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakhyam Atmanivedanam Iti Pushpam Sarpita Vishnu Bhaktis Chena Navalakshana Kriyeta Bhagavati Yadha Tanmanye Aditam Uttamam. This is the statement given by Prahlad Maharaj in answer to a question raised by his father. Prahlad Maharaj said, to hear or chant about Lord Vishnu, to remember him, to serve his lotus feet, to worship him, to offer praise to him, to become his servant and his friend, to sacrifice everything for his service. All these are varieties of devotional service. One who is engaged in such activities is understood to be educated to the topmost perfection. Text 246. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then asked Rāmānanda Rāya, of all glorious activities, which is the most glorious? Purport. Rāmānanda Rāya replied, that person who is reputed to be a devotee of Lord Krishna enjoys the utmost fame and glory. The greatest reputation is living being can have. The greatest reputation a living being can have is to be a devotee of Krishna and to act in Krishna consciousness. In the material world, everyone is trying to be famous by accumulating a large bank balance or material opulence. There is steady competition amongst karmis attempting to advance in a wealthy society. The whole world is turning in accordance with that competitive mood. But this kind of name and fame is temporary, for it lasts only as long as temporary material body exists. One may become famous as Brahmagyani, an impersonalist scholar, or one may become a materially opulent person. In either case, such reputations are inferior to the reputations of Krishna's devotee. In the Garuda Purana, it is said, Kalau Bhagavatam Nama Durlabham Naiva Labhyate Brahmarudra Padokritsam Guruna Kathitam Mama. In this age of Kali, the fame of one who is known as a great devotee is very rare. However, such a position is superior to that of great demigods like Brahma and Mahadev. This is the opinion of all spiritual masters. In Itihas Samuchaya, Narad tells Pundarika, Janmantara Sahasreshu Yasya Syad Budhir Idrishi Dasoham Vasudevasya Sarvalokan Samudharet. After many births, when a person realizes that he is eternal servant of Vasudev, he can deliver all the worlds. In the Adi Puran, in a conversation between Krishna and Arjun, it is said, Bhaktanam anugachanti muktaya shrutibhi saha. The most exalted position of liberation is given by Vedic knowledge. Everyone follows in the footsteps of devotee. Similarly, in the Brihanaradiya Puran, it is further stated, Adyapi cha munishrestha brahmadya api devata. That is, until now, even the great demigods like Brahma and Lord Shiva did not know the influence of a devotee. The Garud Puran similarly states, Brahmanam sahasrebhya satrayaj vishishyate satrayaj sahasrebhya sarva vedanta paraga sarva vedanta vitkotya vishnu bhaktor vishishyate vaishnavanam sahasrebhya ekanti eko vishishyate. It is said that out of thousands of brahmanas, one is qualified to perform sacrifices. And out of many thousands of such qualified brahmanas, expert in sacrificial offerings, one learned brahmana may have passed beyond all Vedic knowledge. He is considered the best among all these brahmanas. And yet, out of those of such brahmanas who have surpassed Vedic knowledge, one person may be Vishnu Bhakta, and he is most famous. Out of many thousands of such Vaishnavas, one who is completely fixed in the service of Lord Krishna is most famous. Indeed, a person who is completely devoted to the service of the Lord certainly returns home back to Godhead. Rebol. There is also the following statement in Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 13th chapter, 4th verse, which says, Shrutasya pumsam suchira shramasya nanva agyasya shurubhiridito artha tattad gunanushramanam mukunda padarvindam hridayeshu yesham. After much hard labor, a person highly learned in Vedic literature certainly becomes very famous. However, one who is always hearing and chanting the glories of the lotus feet of Mukunda within his heart is certainly superior. In the Narayana Vyuhastava Stava, it is said, Naham Brahmapi Bhuyasam Twadbhaktirahito Hare Tvai Bhaktastu Kitopi Bhuyasam Janma Janmasu. I do not aspire to take birth as a Brahma if that Brahma is not a devotee of the Lord. I shall be satisfied simply to take birth as an insect if I am given a chance to remain in the house of a devotee. Rebo. There are many similar verses in Srimad Bhagavatam, especially 3.25.38, 4.24.29, 4.31.22, 7.9.24, and 10.14.30. It was Lord Shiva who said, I do not know the truth about Krishna, but a devotee of Lord Krishna knows all the truth. Out of all the devotees of Lord Krishna, Prahlad is the greatest. Above Prahlad, the Pandavas are supposedly more advanced. Above the Pandavas are the members of Yadu dynasty, who are even more advanced. In the Yadu dynasty, Uddhava is the furthest advanced, and above Uddhava are the damsels of Rajdham, the gopis themselves. In the Brihad Vamana Purana, Lord Brahma tells Bhrigu, Shasti Varsha Sahasrani Maya Taptam Tapapura Nanda Gopa Vraja Strinam Padarenu Palabdhyaye. I underwent meditation and austerities for 60,000 years just to understand the dust of the lotus feet of gopis. Still, I could not understand it. To say nothing of me, even Lord Shiva, Lord Shesha, and the goddess of fortune Lakshmi could not understand it. In the Adi Purana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself says, न तथा मे प्रियतमो ब्रह्मरुद्रश्च पार्थिव न च लक्ष्मीर्न चात्म च यथा गोपी जनो मम. Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, the goddess of fortune, and even my own self are not as dear to me as the gopis. Of all the gopis, Srimati Radharani is the topmost. Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami are exalted servitors of Srimati Radharani and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Those who adhere to their services are known as Rupanuga devotees. The Chaitanya Chandramrit 26 gives the following statement about Srila Rupa Goswami. Astam vairagya kotir bhavatu samadam akshanti maitri adi kotis tatvanudhyayan kotir bhavatu bhavatu na vaishnavi bhaktir koti koti amso api yasya na syatad api guna guno yasvata sitaste Srimad Chaitanya Chandra Priya Charana Nakha Jyotir Amod Bhajam. The qualities of one engaged in the services of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, such as reputation, austerities, penances, and knowledge, are not to be compared to the good qualities of others. Such is the perfection of a devotee, always engaged in the service of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Text 247. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, of the many capitalists, who possesses greatest riches? Who is the topmost? Purport. Rāmānanda Rāya replied, he who is richest in love for Radha and Krishna is the greatest capitalist. Vibhu. Everyone in this material world is attempting to acquire riches to satisfy the senses. Actually, no one cares for anything other than acquiring material possession and maintaining them. The wealthy are generally accepted as most important personalities in this material world. But when we compare a material man of wealth to one wealthy in devotional service to Radha and Krishna, the latter is found to be greatest capitalists. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 39th chapter, 2nd verse, Kim alabhyam bhagavati prasanne Shri Niketane tatapi tatpara rajan nahi vanchati kinchana. What is difficult for the devotees of Lord Krishna, who is the shelter of goddess of fortune? Although such devotees can obtain anything, O king, they do not desire anything. Text 248. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asks, of all kinds of distress, what is the most painful? Sri Rāmānanda Rāya replied, apart from separation of from the devotee of Krishna, I know of no unbearable happiness. Purport. Concerning this, the Lord states in Vedic literature, Mam anaradhya dukha dukhartah kutumbak sakta manasa satsanga rahito martyo vriddha seva parichutu. A person who does not worship me, who is unduly attached to family, and who does not stick to devotional service must be considered a most unhappy person. Similarly, one who does not associate with Vaishnavas or who does not render such service to his superior is also a most unhappy person. There is also following statement in Brihad Bhagavatamrit, first canto, fifth chapter, 54th verse, which says, Swajivanadikam Prathyam Shri Vishnu Jana Sangata Vichedena Kshanam Chatra Na Sukhamsam Labhamahe. Out of all kinds of desirable things experienced in life of a living entity, association with devotees of the Lord is the greatest. When we are separated from a devotee even for a moment, we cannot enjoy happiness. Text 249. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then inquired, out of all liberated persons, who should be accepted as the greatest? Purport. Rāmānanda Rai replied, he who has love for Krishna has attained the topmost liberation. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 14th chapter, 5th verse, it is said, Muktanam api siddhanam narayana parayana sudurlabha prasannatma kotishva api mahamune. O great sage, of the many millions of liberated persons and of the millions who have attained perfection, he who has a devotee of Lord Narayan is very, very rare. Indeed, he is the most perfect and peaceful person. Text 250. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu next asked Rāmānanda Rai, among many songs, which song is to be considered the actual religion of living entity? Purport. Rāmānanda Rai replied, that song describing the loving affairs of Sri Radha and Sri Krishna is superior to all other songs, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 33rd chapter, 36th verse. Anugrahaya bhaktanam manusham deham astita bhajate tadrishi krida yashritva tat paro bhavet. Lord Krishna descends apparently as a human being, and he exhibits his transcendental pastimes in Vrindavan so that the conditioned soul may be attracted to hearing his transcendental activities. Non-devotees are strictly prohibited from participating in songs celebrating the loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. Unless one is a devotee, it is very dangerous to hear the songs about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna that were written by Jayadev Goswami, Chandidas, and other exalted devotees. Lord Shiva drank an ocean of poison, but one should not imitate this. One must first become a pure devotee of Lord Krishna. Only then one can enjoy hearing the songs of Jayadev and relish transcendental bliss. If one simply imitates the activities of Lord Shiva and drinks poison, one will certainly meet with death. The talks between Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Rāmānanda Rai are meant for advanced devotees only. Those who are on mundane platform, who study these talks in order to put forward some thesis for a PhD, will not be able to understand them. Instead, these conversations will have poisonous effect. Text 251. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, out of all auspicious and beneficial activities, which is the best for living entity? Purport. Rāmānanda Rai replied, the only auspicious activity is association with the devotees of Krishna. According to Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.30, Ata atyantikam kshemam prichhamo bhavato anagha samsare asmin kshanardhopi satsangah sevadhir nirnam. We are asking you to tell us what is the most perfect welfare activity. I think that is, in this material world, association with devotees, even if it is to be for a moment, is greatest treasure house for mankind. Text 252. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, what should all living entities constantly remember? Purport. Rāmānanda Rāya replied, the chief objects of remembrance are always the Lord's holy name, qualities, and pastimes. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.2.36 states, Tasmat Sarvatmana Rajan, Tasmat Sarvatmana Rajan, Hari Sarvatra Sarvada, Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha, Smartavyo Bhagavan Nrinam. Shukdev Goswami concludes, the business of the living entity is to always remember the personality of Godhead in every circumstance. The Lord should be heard about, glorified, and remembered by all human beings. Text 253. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu further inquired, out of many types of meditation, which is required for all living entities? Purport. Srila Rāmānanda Rāya replied, the chief duty of every living entity is meditate upon the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, 14th verse states, Tasmadekena manasa Bhagavan Satvatam Pati Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Dheya Pujascha Nityada. Sutta Goswami replied to the sages headed by Shaunak, everyone should very attentively listen to the pastimes of Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should glorify his activities and meditate upon him regularly. Text 254. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, where should the living entity live, abandoning all other places? Purport. Rāmānanda Rāya replied, we should live in the holy place known as Vrindavan or Vrajbhumi, where the Lord performed his Rasa dance. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 47th chapter, 61st verse, Asamaho charna renu jusamaham syam Vrindavane kim api gulmalatau sadhinam Yadustyajam swajanam aryapatam chahitva Bhejur mukunda padavim shrutibhir vimrugyam. Uddhava said, let me become one of Vrindavan's herbs and plants that are trampled by the gopis, who gave up all connection with family and friends and decided to worship the lotus feet of Mukunda. Those lotus feet are sought by all great saintly persons expert in the study of Vedic literature. Text 255. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, out of all topics people listen to, which is the best for all living entities? Purport. Rāmānanda Rāya replied, hearing about the loving affairs between Radha and Krishna is most pleasing to the ear. According to Srimad Bhagavatam 10.33.39, Vikriditam vraj vadubhiritam cha Vishnu Shraddhavanvito Anushrunyan Atha Varnavyedaya Bhaktim Param Bhagavati Pratilabhya Kamam Riddhagrogamasvapnohit Apahinoti Achirena Dhiraha. He who faithfully hears about the dealings between Lord Krishna and the gopis in the Rasa dance, and he who describes these activities attain to the perfectional stage of devotional service and simultaneously lose material lusty desires. A liberated person who hears about the loving affairs of Radha and Krishna is not inclined to have lusty desires. One mundane rogue once said that when the Vaishnavas chant the name Radha, he simply remembers a barber's wife named Radha. This is practical example. Unless one is liberated, he should not try to hear about the loving affairs between Radha and Krishna. If one is not liberated and listens to a relation of the rasa dance, he may remember his own mundane activities and illicit connections with some woman whose name may also be Radha. In the conditioned stage, one should not even try to remember such things, practicing the regulative principles. One should rise to the platform of spontaneous attraction for Krishna. Then and only then should one hear about Radha and Krishna lila. Although these affairs may be very pleasing both to conditioned and to liberated souls, the conditioned soul should not try to hear them. The talks between Rāmānanda Rai and Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu are conducted on the platform of liberation. Text 256. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, among all worshipable objects, which is the chief? Purport. Rāmānanda Rai replied, the chief worshipable object is the holy name of Radha and Krishna, the Hare Krishna mantra. According to Srimad Bhagavatam 6.3.22, Etavan eva lokesmin pumsam dharma parasmrita bhakti yoga bhagavati tannama krihannadibi. In this material world, the living entity's only business is to accept the path of bhakti yoga and chant the holy name of the Lord. Translation. Text 257. And what is the destination of those who desire liberation and those who desire sense gratification? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked. Purport. Rāmānanda Rai replied, those who attempt to merge into the existence of Supreme Lord will have to accept bodies like those of trees. And those who are overly inclined toward sense gratification will attain the bodies of demigods. Those who desire liberation by merging into existence of God do not desire sense gratification within the material world. On the other hand, they have no information about serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Consequently, they are doomed to stand like trees for many thousands of years. Although trees are living entities, they are non-moving. The liberated soul who merges with the existence of the Lord is no better than the trees. Trees also stand in the Lord's existence because material energy and the Lord's energy are the same. Similarly, the Brahman effulgence is also the energy of the Supreme Lord. It is the same whether one remains in the Brahman effulgence or in the material energy, because in neither is there spiritual activity. Better situated are those whose desire sense gratification and promotion to heavenly planets. Such people want to enjoy themselves like denizens of heaven in the gardens of paradise. They at least retain individuality in order to enjoy life. But the impersonalist who tries to lose their individuality also lose both material and spiritual pleasure. The last destination of the Buddhist philosophers is to become just like a stone, which is immovable and has neither material nor spiritual activity. As far as the hard-working karmis are concerned, Srimad Bhagavatam states in 11th canto, 10th chapter, 23rd verse as Istaveha devata yajya swalokam yati yagnikah bhunjita devavat tatra bhogan divyam nijarjitan. After performing various sacrificial rituals for elevation to the heavenly planets, the Karmis go there and enjoy themselves with the demigods to the extent that they have obtained the results of pious activities. In Bhagavad Gita 9.20 and 21st sloka, Lord Krishna states, Traividyamam soma paputa papa yagyerishtva svar gatim prarthayante te punyam surendra lokam ashnati divyan divideva bhogan te tam bhuktva swargalokam te tam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam क्षीणे पुण्यमर्त्यलोकं विशन्ति एवं त्रयीधर्मान् अनुप्रपन्ना गतागतं गतागतं कामकामलभन्ते. Those who study the Vedas and drink soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets, worship me indirectly. Purified of sinful reactions, they take birth on the pious heavenly planet of Indra, where they enjoy godly delights. When they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the three Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. Therefore, after finishing the results of pious activities, the karmis return to this planet in the form of rain and they begin their life as grass and plants in the evolutionary process. Text 258. Rāmānanda Rāya continued, those who are devoid of all transcendental mellows are like the crows that suck the juice from the bitter fruits of a nimba tree of knowledge, whereas those who enjoy mellows are like the cuckoos who eat the buds of a mango tree of love of Godhead. Purport. The speculative process of empiric philosophy is as bitter as the fruit of a nimba tree. Tasting this fruit is a business of crows. In other words, the philosophical process of realizing the absolute truth is a process taken up by crow-like men. But the cuckoo-like devotees have very sweet voices with which to chant the holy name of the Lord and taste the sweet fruit of the mango tree of the love of Godhead. Such devotees relish sweet mellows with the Lord. Text 259. Rāmānanda Rāya concluded, the unfortunate empiric philosophers taste the dry process of philosophical knowledge, whereas the devotees regularly drink the nectar of love of Krishna. Therefore, they are most fortunate of all. Text 260. In this way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Rāmānanda Rāya passed the whole night relishing the mellows of Krishna Katha, topics about Krishna, while they were chanting, dancing, and crying. The night ended. Text 261. The next morning, they both departed to perform their respective duties, but in the evening, Rāmānanda Rāya returned to meet Lord again. Text 262. That evening, after discussing the topics of Krishna for some time, Rāmānanda Rāya caught hold of the lotus feet of Lord and spoke as follows. Text 263. There is variety of transcendental knowledge, the truth about Krishna, the truth about Radharani, the truth about their loving affairs, the truth about transcendental humors, and the truth about Lord's pastimes. Text 264. Sorry. Okay. Text 264. Please continue. What do I do?
That's it.
Okay.
you.